From the snowy village hidden within the surrounding peaks of Mount Silver, James, Jessie, and Meowth venture towards Hoenn. They may not know why they're going, but they know who asked them to. Aston, a boy from Jessie's past in dance school. What could he possibly want us in Hoenn for? I haven't spoken with him since I said goodbye in Little Root Town, Jessie wonders aloud. It has been only a short time since Jessie competed in the Silver Conference, where she placed in the top 16 before losing against Lance. The trio is now traveling through the mountains towards the coast of southern Kanto. Though she said they didn't have to go with her, James and Meowth insist on going to Hoenn with Jessie. Meowth is especially vocal about going with her, as he's been feeling something ominous following the trio ever since leaving the Silver Conference. Despite this, the journey towards the coast ends up being pretty uneventful. They arrive at a port not too far west of Pallet Town. They're able to board a ferry from the Seafoam Islands that will take them to Hoenn. While James relaxes, happy to be back out at sea again, he notices how uneasy Jessie seems. After being knocked out of the Silver Conference, and then to get such a mysterious letter, leaving before she had much time to relax, it's no surprise she's not herself. Chansey, sitting outside her Pokeball by Jessie, tries to calm her trainer with a sing, but only manages to put her to sleep. James sits by Jessie and Chansey, while Meowth wanders through the ship. Watching water Pokemon swimming freely in the ocean, he thinks back to his life before James and Jessie, how he now feels as free as those happy Goldeen and Magikarp in the ocean. He gets so distracted watching the water, Meowth slips on the deck and off the side of the ship. He's about to fall in when someone grabs him just in time. Still a little panicked, Meowth squirms against the person and scratches them. James finally looks up and sees two hooded figures, one of them holding Meowth. He immediately runs over. "Hey, what's going on here? Let go of Meowth," he says, and Meowth jumps into his arms. "Oh, we're terribly sorry. We didn't mean to scare you. Your Meowth was about to fall over the side. Didn't want that to happen," the person says and removes her hood to reveal her long blonde hair. A hooded boy next to her does the same, revealing a greenish-blue hair color almost as weird as his voice is deep. "Yeah, our bad," he says and laughs. "Oh, well then, I'm the one who should be sorry, and grateful. Thank you for saving Meowth. I'm James, and I hope Meowth didn't scratch you too badly. He isn't great with strangers." "Well, I'm Cassidy, and this is Butch. There, we aren't strangers now, are we?" "I guess not," Meowth says, and Butch and Cassidy smile. Aren't you surprised to hear a talking Meowth?" James asks. Yes, oh my god, that's crazy! We had no idea there would be a rare and very valuable talking Meowth on this ship. How fascinating," Cassidy says with a smile that is absolutely hiding nothing. James, as naive and friendly as ever, trusts Cassidy and Butch completely. What? It's not like they're working for some secret evil organization that saw his talking Meowth in the Orange Archipelago and are interested in stealing him. That would be silly. James, Meowth, and their new friends, Butch and Cassidy, walk back to relax by a still sleeping Jessie. James tells them about the note bringing them to Hoenn, and Butch and Cassidy say they're going to Hoenn because, well, for reasons. They ask James if they can all travel together, and he thinks it's a great idea. Surely nothing bad will come from that. By the time Jessie wakes up and is introduced to Butch and Cassidy, the four of them are already at the borders of Hoenn. The ferry docks in the easternmost island of Hoenn, the very place where the battle frontier is in the Generation 3 Pokémon games. This is also the exact island where the Evergrande Pokémon League tournament is held. Once landed, Jessie and James realize they don't know where to go next. Hoenn is a big place after all, even if it is mostly water. Luckily, they don't sit idle for long. A man dressed in the clean and proper suit of a butler approaches them on the dock. "Good, you have arrived. Follow me, please. They are expecting you." Though confused as to what he means, they follow the butler towards a large and very ritzy tea house. Jessie, James, and Meowth follow the man in, leaving Butch and Cassidy waiting for them outside. The butler leads them into a back room, where at first the trio think they're all alone, until Jessie sees Aston standing by a table with a chair turned away from them. "Hello, Jessie. It's been a long time." "Aston, I can't believe you left me back in Little Root, you jerk!" "I deserve that more than you know. I wanted to see you again, but not like this. Listen, you have to leave. You have no idea what she has planned." "Who? What are you talking about? Why did you ask us to come to Hoenn?" "Well, Allow me to answer that, says a horrifyingly familiar voice as the chair behind the desk spins around. Meowth hisses, and James, standing behind Jessie, falls over in fear as he looks into the eyes of the most evil girl he has ever met. Like the Bond villain she is, Jessebelle stands up.
Welcome to my moon base.
Well, 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 if it isn't the love of my life. How have you been, James, darling? Oh, come now, sweetie, don't ruin our reunion. This is a happy occasion. Today is once again our wedding day. Our what? Yes, and don't you try and run. I won't reschedule our special day again. As James stands petrified by the sight of Jessebelle, she notices who James is traveling with. Ah, so you must be the little harlot who has my Jamesy Poo traveling around like a ruffian. Jamesy Poo? Well, you can't have him anymore. I got silly little Aston to lure you to Hoenn so I can tell you face to face. Stay away from my fiancé. You're what? Jessie yells in the same tone as James. For the last time, I am not your fiancé. Hoenn or Kanto, it doesn't matter. I will never marry you no matter where you ask me, James says. Fine, I knew you'd play hard to get again. I planned for that. Since you got lucky in the Indigo League tournament, how about a rematch? Today, in this very town, in the Battle Frontier Flute Cup, a double tournament that you two are going to enter. If you and her win, I swear to leave you alone for all time. And if we win, she says, grabbing Aston. Let me guess, James says. You will finally marry me. Jessie looks to Aston with disgust, cowering behind Jessebelle. How could you work with her? I've known her for 30 seconds and even I realize she's evil. You don't understand, Jessie. I don't have a choice. See you at the tournament. Don't be late, sweetums. And with a manic laugh, Jessebelle, Aston, and the butler leave the tea house. Somehow, even when she's long gone, James can still hear her evil laugh in his mind. Wow, that's intense. Butch, says later when the group is in the town's Pokémon Center. You both have some pretty evil exes, Cassidy adds. They aren't our exes, Jessie and James say in unison. Jessebelle is a monster, and Aston, well... Jessie, what's up with him? James asks. I don't know. I'm not sure why he's going along with her plan, she says. Well, if these two are causing you that much trouble, then Butch and I will join the tournament too. We will? Yes, you idiot. We can't have our new friends, James, Jessie, and of course, Meowth, come to harm. Not yet, at least. What was that? Oh, nothing. Though Jessie and James try to convince Bruce and Cassidy, who are totally trustworthy new friends, not to mess with Jessebelle, they're unconvinced. The four of them register for the tournament and plan their strategy. Buzz and Cassidy and Jessie and James prepare to defeat Jessebelle and Aston in the Flute Cup. The doubles tournament is held in a grand Battle Frontier arena. Though smaller than the nearby Evergrande Conference Village, it's still a huge audience to watch a doubles tournament with much higher stakes than they realize. There are 8 pairs of trainers signed up, so there will be 3 rounds to determine a winner. In the first round, Jessie and James face off against Adam and Evelyn from Wazoo Island. Well-known treasure hunters, they send out a Huntail and Gorabice. Though the Hoenn Pokémon are unfamiliar to Jessie and James, they don't flinch. This isn't their first time in a battle. They send out Ditto and Gengar. As they battled together once in the Orange League, the two work together perfectly. Ditto transforms into Gengar, and the two put the Hoenn Pokémon to sleep with hypnosis, defeating them both with powerful Dream Eaters. Adam and Evelyn are knocked out of the tournament in no time. Bob and Cassidy, the trio's new best buddies with no ulterior motives, face off against Eliza and Hal, an aspiring Pokemon Ranger and a Flygon-obsessed trainer. They send out Meganium and Trapinch respectively, and Butch and Cassidy send out Mightyena and Sableye. The battle seems evenly matched, with Razor Leaf, Sand Attack, Slashes, and Fury Swipes being exchanged left, right, and center. But just as Eliza and Hal seem to be getting an advantage, Botch orders Mightyena to kick up dirt and sand right by Eliza and Hal's eyes. The two trainers can't see what's happening, and in the confusion, Sableye is able to defeat both Meganium and Trapinch with a devastating Shadow Ball. The two win, but the audience boos as they exit the arena. Though Jessie and James weren't in the stands to see such a dirty, cheap play, Meowth saw the whole thing, and is really starting to dislike these two new friends. Jessebelle and Aston enter the arena next, with a loud, solitary boo from Meowth. Though Jessebelle laughs maniacally, Aston looks pretty uncomfortable. Their opponents are the lovers, Oscar and Andy. We heard in the locker room what she is doing here, trying to force someone to marry you. That is not true love. Like, I care what you think? Jessebelle scoffs at them, and with a crack of her whip, sends out her Drapion. Aston is about to send out a Pokemon, but Meowth notices that he waits until Jessebelle hands him a Pokeball first, for some reason. He sends out a Vileplume. Oscar and Andy then send out Nidorino and Nidorina. The battle is completely and totally one-sided. Vileplume seems well-trained, but oddly always listens to Jessebelle's orders instead of Aston's. With Vileplume backing it up, Jessebelle's Drapion is on a completely different level. It shrugs off every poison attack the two lovers throw at it, and defeats them both with a powerful Giga Impact. It seems Jessebelle hasn't forgotten how James defeated her back in the Indigo League. The final round is Annie Proctor and Professor Proctor, researchers of ancient Pokémon, against the parents of one-day gym leaders Tate and Liza, Jin and Rachel. And Jin won't just be a parent to two amazing Pokémon trainers, but also become an astronaut one day. Neat. Needless to say, the parents of one-day gym leaders aren't bad trainers themselves, and their Solrock and Lunatone absolutely annihilate the Proctors Anorith and Lileep. But at least it was good research to see how ancient Pokémon lose. Before the semifinals begin, Jessie approaches Aston during a moment when Jessebelle is not in the room. I don't know why you've agreed to this, but if there's still any friendship between us, please stop, she asks him. I can't, Jessie. I don't want to go along with her plan, but if I don't listen, she'll never give me back my... Give you back your what? Nothing. I've said too much already, he says and leaves the waiting room before Jessie can ask him any more. Jessie returns to tell James and Meowth what happened, but the next round begins before they can speak. In the first semi-finals battle, Jessie and James send out Arbok and Weezing against Jin and Rachel's Lunatone and Solrock. At first this seems like a major mistake. 2 poison types against 2 psychic types? Why would they do that? But don't underestimate Jessie and James. They have a plan. Step 1. Have Weezing cover the arena in a smokescreen. Step 2. While under this cover, Arbok uses Dig to create dozens of tunnels under the rocky arena for the 2 Pokemon to hide in. Step 3. While the 2 floating psychic types search through the holes from above, Arbok uses Bite to attack Weezing. Wait, why would Jessie attack her partner's Pokemon? Simple. Weezing is using Bide. While safe from super effective psychic attacks underground, Arbok can do as much damage to Weezing as possible. When Weezing floats casually back onto the surface, he unleashes the most powerful Bide anyone in the arena has ever seen. Solrock and Lunatone are defeated instantly. The message is clear. If Jessebelle wants a battle, she's gonna get more than she bargained for. Jessie and James aren't playing around. The second round is Butch. Why do I keep doing that? And Cassidy versus Jessebelle and Aston. Jessebelle and Aston once again send out Drapion and Vileplume. Butch sends out Raticate, and Cassidy sends out a Wobbuffet. As the battle begins, Meowth has deja vu watching Wobbuffet battle. He remembers back at the Silver Conference when Jessie battled a Wobbuffet owned by a hooded figure. The same kind of hood Butch and Cassidy were wearing on the boat. That's kinda weird. But he realizes it can't be the same one. The one Jessie battled lost easily, whereas Cassidy's Wobbuffet deflects and counters every attack Vileplume and Drapion throw at them. This gives Raticate plenty of opportunities to sneak in some very fast Super Fangs. It seems like Butch and Cassidy are gonna win easily, but Jessebelle yells at Aston to order Vileplume to use Stun Spore on Wobbuffet. Before he can put up a safeguard, Wobbuffet is paralyzed. Without his defenses, Raticate is exposed to Drapion's powerful attacks and is taken out with a Night Slash. Even though they're about to be declared the winners anyway, as Wobbuffet is so badly paralyzed, Jessebelle still orders Drapion to use Night Slash on it. The audience boos her violent and unnecessary attack, but Jessebelle doesn't care, and she and Aston are declared the winners. Before the finals, as Butch and Cassidy are eliminated, they decide to spend their time doing whatever they can to help their new best buddies, Jessie and James. They offer to take the Pokemon Jessie and James are not using to the Pokemon Center. Why not let them relax while you battle, they say with absolutely no malicious intent whatsoever. Meowth is the only one who is a little cautious, but before he can voice his concern, both Jessie and James agree. Butch and Cassidy ask if Meowth, the extra special talking Pokemon, would like to go too. Lucky for Meowth though, his time on the streets has shown him what humans are capable of, and he tells them no thanks. James and Jessie give their other 5 Pokemon to the duo and begin focusing on the final round. This battle has a lot on the line. If they lose, James will be at Jessebelle's mercy, and Jessie may never find out why Aston betrayed her this way. Amid cheers and fireworks, the 4 trainers send out their Pokemon. Jessie and James send out Growly and Chansey, and Jessebelle and Aston send out Vileplume and Drapion once again. Growly and Chansey may not have battled together like Drapion and Vileplume have, but they work together extremely well. Growly attacks with Flamethrower, and Chansey tanks incoming attacks only to heal the damage back with Soft Boiled. It seems like they will keep this up over and over, Growly attacking and Chansey tanking, but out of nowhere, Growly intentionally takes an incoming Night Slash from Drapion. Why would he do that? So that he can get a boost to his attack thanks to his ability Justified. With this attack boost, Growly is able to deliver the final blow against Drapion with Flare Blitz. 1 down, 1 to go. Just as Growly defeats Drapion, Vileplume attacks from behind and successfully paralyzes him with Stun Spore. It seems like Growly's done for, but just as Vileplume begins charging up a Solar Beam, Chansey runs over to the paralyzed puppy Pokemon. She reveals her ability for the first time, Healer. Chansey heals Growly's paralysis, and he comes back swinging hard. Vileplume is wide open charging its attack, and Growly, still powered up from Justified, defeats the Grass type with a devastating Flare Blitz. Chansey and Growly the Vileplume Slayer have done it. Jessie and James defeat Jessebelle and Aston and are declared the winners of the Flute Tournament. The arena erupts into applause, most of the audience just happy a brat like Jessebelle didn't win. But amidst the clapping is heard a single voice. "No, I will not accept this," Jessebelle screams. "I always get what I want. Marry me, James!" Jessebelle cracks her whip and runs towards James. Luckily, before she can attack him, security guards by the arena charge forward and grab Jessebelle. She thrashes against them and in her madness yells out, "Aston, this is all your fault! You idiot! I told you if you don't lure them here and help me win, you'd never see your Pokémon again." Everyone is stunned silent. "Oh, no. Did I scream that out loud?" Jessebelle says. Yeah, you did," the security guards say and open her purse, revealing several Pokeballs inside. Aston's eyes open wide and he runs forward, happily accepting his Pokemon back after they'd been stolen and held hostage by Jessebelle. "I think the Hoenn police would love to have a few words with you, young missy," the guards say and drag Jessebelle away. For the last time, Jessebelle screams out, "James, you haven't seen the last of me yet." "Actually, I think I have," he says, and the audience applauds once more, now realizing just how crazy Jessebelle was. After they're given their prize of 5 flutes, back in the trainer waiting room, Jessie and James are congratulated by Butch and Cassidy. Aston then walks in and apologizes for all he put them through, but Jessie tells him not to worry about it, that she understands. "If I had my Pokemon stolen by a villain, I'm sure I'd go even crazier than you did," Jessie says, with Butch and Cassidy sharing a suspicious and nervous glance behind her. "Even after all this, I'm happy I still got to see you again, Jessie," Aston says. "And you know, the contest pass I sent you wasn't fake. Maybe you should use it. I've been in Hoenn for a while now, and I think you would do really well here. And James, maybe you should try the Hoenn Gym Challenge. There's a ton this region has to offer." Jessie and James aren't sure about staying in Hoenn though. It's been a wild enough adventure already, and they're sure Meowth would rather relax back home in James's mansion. At the mention of Meowth leaving though, Cassidy suddenly speaks up. No, you can't go yet. This is a great chance for an adventure. In fact, we were thinking of joining the contest circuit and gym challenge too, weren't we, Butch? Yeah? So let's all go together. We'll even pay for the ferry to the mainland where we can sign up. Jessie and James consider it and decide if their trustworthy new friends want to do it, then maybe they will too. Once Butch and Cassidy return Jessie and James's Pokeballs, which were totally taken to the Pokemon Center and not anywhere else, the 4 of them prepare to leave the island. They all wave goodbye to Aston, telling him to cheer for them when they have enough badges and ribbons to compete in the Evergrande Conference and the Grand Festival. Leaving on a boat Butch and Cassidy rented, Jessie and James are a little concerned there isn't a sailor on board with them, but Butch tells them he's been sailing his whole life, and can ferry them to the mainland at Slateport City no problem. The boat ride to the mainland is quiet and calm, until the boat stops at a small island about halfway through the trip. Butch and Cassidy suggest they take a break and relax at this small, uninhabited island. You know, where no one will bother us, Cassidy says with no evilness behind her words. Jessie and James agree, grabbing some supplies from the boat to set up a picnic. Meowth jumps off the boat too, excited to eat dinner. But as he jumps, he's suddenly grabbed from behind right out of the air. Just like back on the ferry to Hoenn, Cassidy has grabbed Meowth. "Oh, Cassidy, you can let Meowth go. He can make that jump no problem," James says, but his smile begins to fade when he sees the look on Cassidy's face. She didn't grab Meowth to keep him from getting wet, she just grabbed him. "Cassidy, let Meowth go." "Why don't you make her?" Butch says, and Jessie stands up too. "Stop joking around, you two." "No more joking around. In fact, why don't we come clean to our new friends? Good idea." Butch and Cassidy throw Meowth inside of a cage they seemingly pulled out of nowhere, and quick change into two very weird outfits. Matching black clothes with big red R's on them. It looks oddly familiar to James, but he can't remember where he's seen it before. And then...
To infect the world with devastation.
To blight all peoples in every nation.
To denounce the goodness of truth and love.
To extend our wrath to the stars above.
Cassidy.
Butch.
We're Team Rocket circling Earth all day and night.
Surrender to us now or you will surely lose the fight.
That's right.
Okay. Copycat.
Suddenly, James remembers where he's seen that red R before. Back on New Island, right before the Orange League, he met a strange group of people wearing the same clothes. He remembered they were very interested in Meowth, him being the first talking Pokemon they'd ever seen. "You're here to steal Meowth, aren't you?" James yells out. "Bravo! Took you long enough to figure it out," Cassidy says. "Team Rocket ordered us to capture your rare talking Meowth, and we always complete our mission." From inside the cage, Meowth finally puts all of the pieces together. "You're the ominous thing I've been sensing since the Silver Conference, and you were the hooded Wobbuffet trainer. Yes, it was our plan to first evaluate the strength of your traveling partner here. Once I saw how weak she was, I knew we could steal your talking Meowth in the snowy village. Unfortunately, that crazy girl had you run immediately to Hoenn. Nearly ruined all of our plans. We had no choice but to follow you and bide our time for another opportunity to steal your Pokemon. You'll never steal our Pokemon. We'll stop you," Jessie says, and throws a Pokeball containing Arbok. But the Pokeball is empty. "Never steal your Pokemon? My dear, we already have." Both Jessie and James realize what fools they've been. When they handed over their Pokemon to be healed, Butch and Cassidy must have swapped them for empty Pokeballs. It's simple. You have no Pokemon to defeat us, we have Meowth behind bars, and all we have to do is sail away and leave you two stranded on this island. We just had to take a few moments to gloat. It's amazing when a plan goes so perfectly, isn't it, Hutch? It's Butch. Whatever. Jessie and James can't believe it. How could they be so stupid? They failed Meowth and all of their Pokemon. Wait, not all of their Pokemon. James gives Jessie a nod, and both of them send out their only Pokemon left, Growly and Chansey. "Huh, you think two little Pokemon will stand a chance against us? Here's a tip. Team Rocket doesn't play fair." Butch and Cassidy send out Mightyena, Sableye, Raticate, and Wobbuffet. Growly and Chansey are totally outnumbered, but they don't flinch, and neither do James or Jessie. Even if the chance is small, they'll never give up. The battle is clearly one-sided, but Growly and Chansey do everything they can to defeat them. As the battle rages on, with everything on the line, it seems like they're done for. An injured Growly and Chansey look moments away from fainting. Mightyena, Sableye, and Raticate begin charging up a devastating attack to defeat them once and for all. It looks like everything's done for. But suddenly, an unexpected ally jumps in front of the attack. Using Mirror Coat to reflect the attack back, Raticate, Mightyena, and Sableye are flung back, hitting Butch and Cassidy right off of the boat. But who just sent Butch and Cassidy blasting off? It was none other than Wobbuffet. But wait a minute. Why would Butch and Cassidy's own Pokemon help Jessie and James? Wobbuffet waddles over to the boat and releases Meowth from the cage, who can then translate for him. Wobbuffet says, "For years I've been forced to work for those two, to help them do terrible things. I couldn't do it anymore. I remember fighting against you, Jessie, back at the Silver Conference and wishing I had a trainer like you." Wobbuffet betrayed Butch and Cassidy, and though it knows what it's done in the past is awful, it begs Jessie, James, and Meowth to forgive it. Though the trio are shell-shocked by what just happened, they forgive Wobbuffet without question. Without your help, Butch and Cassidy would have beaten us and stolen Meowth, Growly, and Chansey, Jessie says and hugs Wobbuffet. Through Meowth's translation, Wobbuffet asks Jessie if he can join her team. He promises to fight hard to make up for the damage he helped cause. Jessie agrees and adds Wobbuffet to her team. Though she's happy to be joined by him, neither Jessie or Meowth know what to say to James. He's already in the boat, figuring out how to sail it to Slateport City, the direction Butch and Cassidy were sent blasting off. We have to leave. I'm getting my Pokémon back, now. Jessie and Meowth get in the boat, neither one having seen James this angry before. Both are worried seeing the hate behind his eyes, but are just as determined to rescue their friends. It takes them some time to get used to steering the boat, but the trio sail through the night and arrive at Slateport City. When they enter the city, gyms and contests are the last things on their mind. They head straight for the police station and report what happened to this town's Officer Jenny. She tells them that this isn't the first Pokémon theft that's been reported in Hoenn recently. A criminal organization by the name of Team Rocket has been sending agents here to rob trainers participating in both the gym and contest leagues. Jenny tells them she will do everything she can to rescue their Pokémon, but can't make any promises. James is furious after talking with Jenny, and though the trio rests at a Pokémon Center, he can't get any sleep. First Jessebelle, and now this? While Jessie and Meowth are asleep, James leaves and begins searching the area for any clue as to the whereabouts of Butch and Cassidy. He knows Wobbuffet sent them blasting off in this direction, so if they came anywhere, it had to be to Slateport. Hours pass, but James doesn't find anything. As James cries alone in the woods outside Slateport, he can't help but feel like all hope is lost. Weezing, Ditto, Nidoqueen, Gyarados, and Carnivine are gone, and he might never see them again. James's crying attracts the attention of a Pokémon in the woods. With the faintest of chimes and an aura of calm, a chime echo approaches the crying James. The wild Pokémon doesn't know what's troubling the human, but Chime Echo is drawn to him and begins a soothing heal bell behind him. James turns to see the Pokémon and can feel his heart lift just a little, both thanks to the wild Pokémon's chimes and the fact that James has always wanted to see a Chime Echo. His mood brightens. "Hello there," he says. "I'm James. I know you don't know me, but I'm having the worst day I could imagine. Thank you for trying to help." Chime Echo smiles brightly and nuzzles against James, wiping a tear from his cheek. It doesn't change the loss he's felt, but something about this brief moment of calm reinvigorates James. He can't give up here. Butch and Cassidy may have his Pokémon, but he can get them back. James stands up and with newfound courage begins walking back to the Pokémon Center. He notices after a few steps that the wild Chime Echo is following him. Huh? Oh, do you want to come too? Honestly, I could use all the help I can get. Want to join me? And Chime Echo smiles wide, excited to be with someone who needs her instead of floating on the winds of Hoenn all alone. As the sun begins rising, James arrives back at the Pokémon Center and can see Jessie and Meowth talking with Officer Jenny outside. He asks them what's going on and notices that Jessie is holding something. It's a ransom note from Butch and Cassidy. It was left for Jessie and James, and Jenny came as soon as Jessie called her. It reads, "You may still have Meowth, but don't forget, we have your Pokémon. Do what we say or you will never see them again. Sign up for the Hoenn Gym and Contest Challenge. If you win both, we'll return your Pokémon. If not, you give us Meowth. Signed, Biff and Cassidy." Though Officer Jenny and her Growlithe will do their best to track the whereabouts of the two through the scent on the letter, it seems like James and Jessie have their hands tied. They'll have to play along with Butch and Cassidy's demands. For now. James signs up for the Hoenn Gym Challenge, and Jessie uses the contest pass from Aston to sign up for the Hoenn Contest Circuit. They will have to become stronger than ever before if they are to win and rescue their Pokémon. James and Jessie are determined to do their best, but they do wonder, why do Butch and Cassidy want them to do this? What is their plan? "Remind me again, why are we doing this?" Butch asks. "Simple. They humiliated us, and now we have to humiliate them. Think about it. They catch brand new Pokémon and train them to be champions, and then when they think we will return their Pokémon. We steal from them again. They will never get their Pokémon back, and we'll steal their Hoenn Pokémon and that talking Meowth. Madam Boss will be so impressed, we'll become Rocket Elites in the blink of an eye. That's a pretty evil plan. I know, but do you really want to disappoint Madam Boss? Will our heroes triumph in the gym and contest challenges? Will they save their Pokémon from Butch and Cassidy? Will Team Rocket get their hands on our lovable Meowth? Will Jessebelle ever leave James alone? And who is feeding Lickitung? Answers to all this and more on the next What If James Never Got Engaged. As long as you like and subscribe, thank you. Daddy, you have to bail me out again. Sweetie, we told you. A 17th restraining order was the last straw. No more bailing you out. Maybe sometime in a Hoenn juvenile detention center will do you some good, young lady. When we last left our heroes, James, Jessie, and Meowth were in Slateport City, about to begin a new Pokemon adventure in Hoenn. But unlike a normal journey, this one began not with excitement and enthusiasm, but with apprehension and worry. Jessie and James recently had many of their Pokemon stolen by Butch and Cassidy, two agents from a group called Team Rocket. This left the duo with only Growly, Chansey, and the newly caught Chimecho and Wobbuffet, as well as a mission: to save their Pokemon by becoming champions. Well, that's not entirely true. James and Jessie do have other Pokemon who weren't with them when Bartholomew and Cassidy made their move. They also have Slowpoke, Lickitung, and Yanma, who are back at James's summer home in Sinnoh, but they both decide to let them remain there. James and Jessie will call on them if needed, but for now, they want to see what new Pokemon Hoenn has to offer. They're gonna need a lot of new friends if they're to rescue their stolen Pokemon. I just hope they're doing alright, that they aren't scared, James says. Don't worry, our Pokemon are tough, and they know that we'll save them. We won't give up, right? Jessie says. No, of course not. We can do this. Meowth, that's right. Leaving the boat Butch and Cassidy rented at the Slateport Harbor, Jessie and James begin their journey to winning the Evergrande Conference and the Grand Festival. Luckily for our heroes, they don't have to go far. Jessie's first contest is right here in Slateport City. In the center of the city is a massive contest hall. The Grand Festival itself is sometimes held right here, so it's one of the biggest venues in all of Hoenn. It's a pretty huge place for Jessie to have her Pokemon Coordinator debut. Outside of the contest hall, Jessie sees about a dozen other coordinators preparing and grooming their Pokemon. Jessie looks down at Chansey, and both of them are a little nervous. Not only is there a lot on the line if they don't win, but they also don't want to make a fool of themselves. James and Meowth try to cheer them up, but as they do, one of the other coordinators approaches them. As she gets close, Jessie recognizes her and yells out, "Is that really you? Whitney?" Whitney, a trainer from Goldenrod City, is now a coordinator here in Hoenn. Jessie met her at a Pokemon beauty contest, which Whitney won, of course, and the future gym leader is now in Hoenn looking to give Pokemon contests a shot. Jessie's ecstatic to see her again, the two originally bonding over their love of pink Pokemon. Whitney, with her Clefairy in her arms, takes the time to give Jessie some tips, and also explains how contests work. Contests are split into two categories, the appeal stage and the battle stage. Coordinators and their Pokemon will first need to prepare a dazzling performance in order to qualify for the battle stage. Once there, they'll need to win contest battles to get the coveted ribbon. These battles can be won by knockout like any other, but contest battles also deduct points for failed attacks and lack of style, grace, and coordination. There's a lot that goes into winning a contest. Jessie is understandably a little overwhelmed by all the rules. "Why did Aston want me to do this again?" she asks aloud. Whitney tells her to not worry too much since this is her first contest, so losing is no big deal. But Jessie decides to tell Whitney what happened to them recently, to inform her that to Jessie, losing is a big deal. If she doesn't qualify for the Grand Festival and win, she may never see her stolen Pokemon again. Whitney can't help but get a little emotional, imagining what it would be like to lose her Pokemon. But she wipes her tears and tells Jessie to stay strong. She can do this, and Whitney will help any way she can. With a friend and rival by her side, Jessie enters the contest hall. James and Meowth cheer for her in the stands, as Jessie and Chansey are the first up in the appeals stage. The appeals end up being a lot harder than Jessie expected. Chansey's singing performance is beautiful, but after watching everyone else, Jessie feels like she didn't do nearly enough. Luckily for her, Chansey's performance, while putting the front row of the audience to sleep, was just good enough to qualify Jessie for the battle stage. As this is the first contest of the season, there aren't as many coordinators here yet, otherwise Jessie likely wouldn't have qualified. But good thing she did, because if there's one thing Jessie learned how to do in the Johto League, it was how to battle. However, she can't forget about the subtle differences in a contest battle. 4 coordinators qualify for the semifinals. In Jessie's first battle, she's paired up against a trainer by the name of Sheridan, who uses a Roselia. Though it takes some getting used to contest battles, Chansey's experience in the Johto League is able to win her the battle with relative ease, after she lands a super effective Ice Punch. In the finals, Jessie is, unsurprisingly, paired up against Whitney. Jessie's Chansey defeated Milton's Miltank back in Johto to win the Plane Badge, so they're pretty confident going into this battle. However, while Milton was strong, Whitney's on a whole other level, especially in regards to contest battles. Whitney's Miltank is just as speedy and tanky as her uncle's, and she chooses to use Rollout not to attack, but to dodge every Egg Bomb Chansey throws at her. Though no attacks hit either Pokemon, Jessie's points dwindle with each miss. Everyone in the audience can tell Whitney is in charge of this battle. However, just as it seems like Miltank will dodge another Egg Bomb and force Chansey to lose her last point, Miltank stops dead in its tracks. The Egg Bomb hits Miltank directly and knocks the cow Pokemon out. Jessie's declared the winner by knockout, but even as she's awarded her first contest ribbon of all time, something seems off. This doesn't feel like a victory. Back in the locker room, Jessie walks past James and Meowth and approaches Whitney. "You threw that last battle, didn't you?" "What? No, of course not. You were wiping the floor with me. Don't lie. You threw that battle on purpose." "Well, yes, but I had to. When you told me what happened to your Pokemon, I just couldn't bear to see you lose." "Whitney, I'm grateful you cared enough to do that, but losing on purpose isn't doing Chansey and me any favors. We need to win the whole thing. And if we don't learn on our own and get stronger, we'll never be able to save our friends." Whitney pauses and finally nods. "I understand. I'm sorry. I promise I won't go easy on you ever again." The two hug, with Whitney promising to tell her Uncle Milton how Jessie is doing. Apparently Milton went on and on to Whitney about the epic Chansey vs Miltank battle he and Jessie had back in Goldenrod. After the contest, Jessie, James, and Meowth decide to head north to Mauville City, so James can have his first gym battle. Whitney decides to hike to Oldale Town instead. They wave goodbye to her and begin the hike to Mauville. On the way to Mauville, they pass by the Trick House, and though they would have liked to participate in the King of Tricks game, they have more important matters at hand. Once in the city itself, James wastes no time and heads straight for the gym. There's a lot on the line, and the sooner he collects all 8 badges, the sooner he can see his Pokemon again. The gym leader, Watson, is an electric specialist, and tells James it will be a 2-on-2 battle. Watson sends out Electrike, and James sends out Growly. Just looking at the 2 dog Pokemon, you'd assume they were evenly matched, but when the battle begins, Growly immediately shows how powerful he's gotten. He takes out Electrike with a single takedown. Competing in the Indigo League and becoming champion of the Orange Islands has done a lot for Growly's confidence in battle. And against Watson's second Pokemon, Magneton, Growly has no issue. A single Fire Blast takes out the Steel type and leaves Watson stunned on his side of the arena. It isn't often that gym leaders have their teams swept by a single Pokemon. Least of all one as small and cute as Growly. James is awarded the Dynamo badge, and won't deny that a small part of him is kind of happy to be back competing for gym badges. It's nostalgic. After the gym battle, the trio pull out a map of Hoenn. They both need to reach a bunch of different cities if they want 8 badges and 5 ribbons, so need to plan their route appropriately. Jessie isn't great with maps though, and with James's experience navigating the Orange Archipelago, he takes charge. While he maps out their route, Jessie decides to wander around the area outside Mauville. She spots a food vendor selling spicy noodles and decides to grab some. Sitting by a park bench, she places her food down for just a second while she gets comfortable, but that 1 second is all it takes for her food to be gobbled up by a nearby wild Pokemon. A wild Seviper is happily eating Jessie's food, and while most people would be afraid to see a giant poisonous snake behind them, Jessie feels the opposite, furious. This poor Seviper just stole food from the wrong person. Ask Lickitung. Just like in the anime, Jessie uses Scratch on Seviper, and it's super effective. She catches the wild Seviper and tells it that it's gonna have to work off that meal by winning her a contest ribbon. Returning to James with a new Pokemon in tow, he says the best plan is to head to Pacific Town for Jessie's second contest, and then catch a ferry all the way over to Petalburg. It's an odd route, but if they want to succeed, it's the best plan they've got. A sailor in a Wailord-shaped boat is able to bring them from Mauville to Pacific where Jessie registers for her second contest. And without Whitney here to help, Jessie's gonna have to win this one all on her own. In the appeals stage, Jessie chooses to go for broke and uses her newly caught Seviper. Though it isn't accustomed to performing, Seviper is very motivated to not disappoint Jessie. Seviper is able to qualify for the next round after a dazzling display of using Poison Tail to carve Jessie's name right into the stage floor. This contest has 8 trainers who qualify for the battle stage. In the quarterfinals, Chansey's able to defeat a trainer Shroomish, who falls asleep to sing before it can use Spore to do the same to Chansey. And in the semifinals, Wobbuffet wins by casually countering and mirror coating every attack the opposing Linoon throws at him, forcing his opponent to run out of style points. Jessie makes it to the finals once again, and faces off against a trainer who is clearly wearing a wig by the name of Casey. Something seems off about her, but Jessie sends out Seviper to face off against Casey's Sableye. The battle is fairly evenly matched, with both landing and missing as many hits as the other. Seviper's Poison Tail and Sableye's Fury Swipes both look powerful, and it feels like the winner will be decided by one mistake. Luckily for Jessie, Casey is the first to make that mistake. She orders Sableye to use Shadow Ball, but Seviper slices the ball in two with Poison Tail, using the momentum to crash down on Sableye and win with a dazzling display of power. Before Jessie can approach her opponent and shake her hand, Casey runs out of the arena. Must be a bit of a sore loser, Jessie says and shrugs. One of the judges, Mr. Contesta, takes center stage with Jessie and awards her her second contest ribbon ever. Though Jessie revels in the applause, the celebration is cut short. Apparently, one of the other contestants lost one of their Pokemon. The authorities advise everyone to clear the contest hall so they can begin their investigation. I guess Officer Jenny wasn't wrong, Jessie says to James outside the hall. Team Rocket really is targeting other trainers here in Hoenn. After the contest, our trio wants to get out of town as soon as possible. However, the two realize that in all of the chaos, many of the scheduled ferries have been diverted. The next ferry to Petalburg isn't until tomorrow. James was afraid that might happen, but luckily for them, a passing sailor says he's on his way to Dewford and doesn't mind dropping them off near Petalburg. They'll have to hike a few hours to get to the city, but they're fine with that. Better than waiting around till tomorrow. The sailor takes them just past Dewford and drops them off in the outskirts of Petalburg, wishing them good luck and telling them to catch a lot of Pokémon. The trio wave goodbye to the deep-voiced sailor and begin their hike. After a short while, they're stopped in the middle of the road by 2 wild Pokémon. They both look moments away from battling each other. A wild Cacnea and Slackoth are glaring at each other fiercely, and Meowth steps in to see what the problem is. Apparently, Cacnea was eating fruit underneath a tree that Slackoth was sleeping in. Slackoth accidentally fell out of the tree and right onto Cacnea. Cacnea had its fruit knocked out of its hands, and Slackoth got poked painfully enough that it can't fall back asleep. And no one wants to get between a Slackoth and its nap. James, seeing the two about to attack each other, sends out Chimecho, who calms them both down with Heal Bell. This settles them down long enough for James to pick some new fruit for Cacnea and fluff some nearby grass to make a nice bed for Slackoth. There, now you have no reason to fight, right? The 2 wild Pokemon nod as they're given such gifts by the human. Though James can tell they're still a little upset with each other, Cacnea and Slackoth settle down. James, Jessie, and Meowth are about to leave, but the wild Cacnea approaches James. She's already finished the fruit he gave her and clearly wants more. Well, if you want, we have plenty of food. Why don't you come with us? But just as James is about to offer Cacnea a Pokeball, the wild Slackoth runs as fast as a sloth can over to the human. Meowth translates, and Slackoth says, "If Cacnea is going with you, then take me too. I can nap twice as well as her." Cacnea pushes against Slackoth and says, "Forget him, take me." And the two seem like they're about to fight again. James decides to stop yet another fight before it happens and offers both of them a Pokeball. He adds Cacnea and Slackoth to his team and hopes the two can become close friends. Once they're finally in the city itself, James approaches the Petalburg gym. and challenges the gym leader Norman, who is cheered for in the stands by his wife and a very young May. James decides this would be a good time to try out his newly caught Pokémon and sends out Slackoth. Little did he know, Norman specializes in sloth Pokémon and also sends out a Slackoth. You remember how Ash once battled a Metapod with a Metapod and it was the most boring battle of all time? Slackoth versus Slackoth makes that battle look like an epic showdown. Both Slackoths do nothing but exchange yawns and encores. After about an hour of watching them essentially take turns napping on the arena floor, the judge rules the battle a draw, and both Pokemon are recalled. What was a 2-on-2 battle comes down to just 1-on-1. Norman sends out Vigoroth, and James decides to send out Cacnea. Although newly caught, James and Cacnea have a natural rhythm together. As fast as Vigoroth is, Cacnea has no trouble keeping up. A well-timed dodge causes Vigoroth to trip on its own feet, and Cacnea is able to deliver the finishing blow with Needle Arm. Thanks to his 2 new Pokemon, James is awarded his second badge, the Balance Badge. Hopefully these 2 scrappy Pokemon will be able to find balance between each other as well. Traveling through Petalburg Woods towards Rustboro City, our trio finds navigating through a lot harder than they expected. In the dense woods, they get lost and separated. James, Jessie, and Meowth try to find each other, but seem to just get turned around even more. James in particular becomes frantic trying to find Jessie and Meowth. He's already lost too many friends, and he can't bear the thought of losing them too. Luckily for James, he comes across a small but very kind Pokemon. Sitting in a clearing, meditating and listening to the sounds of the woods, is a wild Pokemon. It's a Ralts. The wild Ralts looks up at the human, and the psychic type can see how lost and scared James is. She offers to help him find his friends. Using her telepathic powers, she senses where Jessie and Meowth are in the woods. She leads James to them, and the group are able to get out of the woods safely and together. After all they went through in the woods, and how kind Ralts was, James decides to offer Ralts a Pokeball. If the little psychic type could help the trio find their way in the woods, maybe she can help them find their other lost friends. Ralts, sensing the intentions of the human, happily joins his team. Out of the woods and back in civilization, there's a lot for the trio to do in Rustboro City, and I'm not talking about tourist stuff. The city will have Jessie's 3rd contest and James's 3rd gym battle. Jessie feels much more confident going into her 3rd contest. With 2 ribbons in her case, winning here will bring her past the halfway point to qualifying for the Grand Festival. In the appeal stage of the Rustboro contest, Jessie uses Chansey. Creating a dazzling display freezing egg bomb explosions with Ice Punch, the 2 easily qualify for the battle stage. The quarterfinals and semifinals are won fairly easily by Chansey and Seviper, both clearly improving their performing skills, not giving up any style points easily. In the finals, Jessie faces off against a trainer named Tucker, who we may recognize as a future member of the Battle Frontier. Jessie sends out Seviper to face off against her opponent's Arcanine. After seeing Growly battle several times now, Jessie knows just how powerful this fire-type line can be. Arcanine isn't called the legendary Pokemon for nothing. Seviper attempts to bite Arcanine, but each one misses thanks to the large dog's speed. Jessie's style points dwindle with each miss, and she realizes she needs to play this cool. Learning from her battle with Whitney, Jessie orders Seviper to take things slow, to wait for Arcanine to come to him. Instead of chasing after the speedy fire type, Seviper waits patiently, and strikes just as Arcanine is about to attack with an agility boosted takedown. But instead of slamming into Seviper, Arcanine slams right into a powerful Poison Tail. Using Arcanine's momentum against him, Seviper is able to knock it out in just 1 hit. Jessie defeats Tucker and earns her 3rd contest ribbon ever. After the contest, more officers show up near the hall. Apparently there was another Pokemon stolen from a coordinator who was eliminated early. Jessie and James feel compelled to do something this time, and approach this town's Officer Jenny. They give her all of the info they have on Butch and Cassidy and what happened at the contest from their point of view. She thanks them, telling them they have a few new agents on the case, so everything should be solved in no time. She returns to the investigation. It makes James and Jessie happy to know new people are working on finding the stolen Pokemon, but they're still worried. First the contest in Pacifidlog Town, and now Rustboro? What is the connection? Before they leave, James has to enter Rustboro's gym for a battle. While Roxanne will one day be the gym leader here, at this point in time, she'd be far too young. So instead, the gym leader is a man named Mr. Stone. A well-known rock collector and inventor, he will one day found the Devon Corporation. His son, also collecting badges, is, according to him, a prodigy. Team Rocket better think twice before trying to steal my boy's Pokémon, he says. Mr. Stone wants to do nothing more than gush over his son, but James gets his mind back on the task, a Pokémon battle. The battle will be a 3-on-3. Mr. Stone sends out Geodude, and James wisely sends out Cacnea. The grass type is a perfect choice for the rock gym, and James expects her to sweep the whole thing. And he's very nearly right. Cacnea defeats Geodude easily with Needle Arm, and Mr. Stone's next Pokemon, Omanyte, puts up a stronger fight by getting in a powerful Spike Cannon, but it's ultimately taken out by Needle Arm as well. Against Mr. Stone's third Pokemon, a Nosepass, Cacnea has more trouble. After missing with Pin Missile, Cacnea is damaged and paralyzed by a surprise Zap Cannon. Defenseless and hurt, the grass type is then defeated by a powerful Rock Throw. James chooses to send out Ralts next, but the tiny Pokemon's no match for Nosepass. Unable to land a single attack, Ralts is taken out with a Rock Tomb. James is suddenly down to his last Pokemon and decides to take a risk. He sends out Slackoth. Nosepass uses Rock Tomb, which slows down the already slow Pokemon. Slackoth then uses Encore, forcing Nosepass into using Rock Tomb over and over. Each attack makes the Sloth Pokemon slower and slower, and eventually, this becomes too much for even Slackoth to bear. As he's buried under rocks, a light shines and he bursts through. Slackoth has evolved into Vigoroth. With its newfound speed, Vigoroth is able to get in close. With a lightning-fast swing, Vigoroth one-shots Nosepass with a newly learned Focus Punch. James defeats Mr. Stone and is awarded his third badge, the Stone Badge. Outside the city of Fall Arbor Town, our trio decides to take a break from traveling and spend some time relaxing, eating, and admiring the beautiful and unique Ashfall. This part of Hoenn is one of the only places to see something like this, and it's an unforgettable sight. As James, Jessie, and Meowth set up a picnic, they decide to let their Pokemon out to join them. While everyone eats and relaxes, one of their Pokemon hears something in the nearby bushes. Chansey, with years of experience as a nurse, can hear the faint sound of whimpering from someone in pain nearby. She waddles away from the group and into the bushes. Jessie looks up and begins to feel nervous. Chansey's been gone too long. Jessie and James both look at each other, fearing the worst, and run after her. Worried they may stumble onto Babaluba and Cassidy trying to steal Chansey, they instead see her nursing an injured Pokemon. A lone wild Whismur was burned by the falling ash from Mount Chimney. Chansey uses her ability Healer to help the Whismur, who can now go back to the wild in peace. But as the group waves goodbye to Whismur, it refuses to leave Chansey's side. Chansey looks up at Jessie, and her trainer doesn't need Meowth to translate. Jessie can tell exactly what Chansey is thinking. Well, looks like you're coming with us, Whismur. As long as you don't think Hitmonlee will get jealous, Chansey. And the group laughs as Jessie adds the wild Whismur to her team, where Chansey can help keep him safe. After their picnic by the volcano, the group heads into town. With her newly caught Whismur, Jessie confidently enters the Fall Arbor contest. She's 3 for 3 on contests so far, and believes that just like Seviper before him, Whismur's gonna win its first contest with ease. And Jessie is dead wrong. Just because Seviper won its first contest ever doesn't mean every Pokemon can just walk onto a massive stage and excel. Whismur enters the appeals stage, with Jessie ordering it to use Screech. But when Whismur opens its mouth, no sound comes out. The audience is deafeningly silent, and from how Whismur begins shaking and sweating, Jessie learned something she should have considered beforehand. Whismur has stage fright. For the first time, Jessie loses a contest, not even making it past the appeals stage. What's worse, her poor little Whismur is so distraught by the loss, it's too afraid to even leave its Pokeball. Not even Chansey's able to coax him out. Poor little guy. You'd think Jessie would be angry about losing the contest, but all she can think about is poor little Whismur. She tells him through the Pokeball to not worry. She won't force it to do anything it doesn't want to again. It was her fault they lost, not Whismur's. Jessie decides to stay and watch the rest of the contest, scoping out the competition. And after seeing the winner's performance, a part of her is almost happy she was eliminated early. A coordinator by the name of Wallace absolutely swept the contest. No one stood a chance against him. After Wallace is given the Fall Arbor ribbon, the stands begin to empty as everyone leaves. As the trio exits the contest hall and prepares to journey towards Lava Ridge, they notice some commotion at the back of the hall. Two strange people are in the middle of a Pokémon battle, but they aren't battling each other. They're both battling a very small wild Pokémon. Get out of our way, we don't want to steal a weak Pokémon like you. The wild Pokémon appears to be guarding the building against these two people. Two people who happen to be wearing similar clothes to Butch and Cassidy, but who look nothing like Butch and Cassidy. They must be other Team Rocket agents. Hey, Team Rocket, Jessie says and bursts forward. She runs and stands next to the wild Pokémon. Up close, she can see that it's a Spoink. The little pig Pokémon saw the Rocket agents attempt to break into the contest hall, likely to steal Pokémon as Team Rocket has done to contest venues all over Hoenn. Jessie sends out Seviper, and both he and Spoink team up to defeat the two agents and send them blasting off with Poison Tails and Psybeams. For such a small little guy, you sure are tough, Jessie says. To think you stood up against two Rocket agents all by yourself. On behalf of all of the contest participants, thank you. Before Spoink can say anything though, the difficult battle finally starts to wear on him, and he faints into Jessie's arms. Later that evening, in the Fall Arbor Pokémon Center, Spoink awakens with Jessie by his bedside. You have a very determined little Pokémon there, this city's Nurse Joy says to Jessie. The local officer Jenny, who came to get statements from Jessie and James, agrees. Oh, he isn't mine, Jessie says, but Spoink then speaks up and Meowth translates. Oh yes I am. I've been waiting for a trainer who's as tough as I am, the tiny, cute little pig with the heart of a warrior says. A lot of trainers have tried to catch me, but they got nothing on you. I can tell you're the one for me. Jessie adds Spoink to her team, knowing that his bravery and determination to help others is exactly what they need to win the Grand Festival and save their friends. After Spoink is fully healed, the group moves on. Once in Lava Ridge Town, James intends to have his 4th gym battle. Though the gym leader, Flannery's grandfather, Mr. Moore, is here, as James approaches, he says he can't battle today. You see, Mr. Moore is on his way to Moss Deep City. The first test launch of a space shuttle is being done there, and they want the gym leader's fire Pokemon present to help contain the flame in case of an emergency. James, however, insists on having a battle first. Please, you have no idea how important it is that I get 8 badges. Well, battle or not, that might be a problem. Okay, let's have a quick battle. You can use 3 Pokemon, and I'll just use 1. James finds it odd for a gym leader to give their opponent such an advantage, but he doesn't argue. He'll take every easy win he can get. The battle begins with Growly facing off against Torkoal. Torkoal looks like it's barely paying attention, so James thinks this battle will be no problem. But Torkoal casually steps out of the way of every takedown and flare blitz Growly uses. After Growly tires himself out, Torkoal uses Body Slam and defeats the puppy Pokemon. James then sends out Vigoroth, and the speedy Pokemon seems to have a better chance at landing a hit on Torkoal, but Flannery's grandfather orders Torkoal to use Iron Defense, so even when Vigoroth lands a Scratch or Focus Punch, it barely does any damage. Torkoal ultimately uses Flamethrower and defeats Vigoroth. James is down to his last Pokemon. Cacnea is a Grass type, so he can't use her, and Chimecho doesn't have the attack power to break through Torkoal's shell. James has no choice and sends out Ralts. The small Pokemon doesn't have a lot of experience, but James believes in her. Ralts uses its confusion and seems to do a bit of damage, but Torkoal bounces back quickly and uses Flamethrower. Ralts is almost taken out instantly, but knowing what's on the line and how badly they need to win, Ralts digs deep and evolves into Kirlia. She intends to save James here, just like she did back in the Petalburg Woods. With a newly learned Double Team, Kirlia avoids Torkoal's Flamethrower and is able to hit it directly with Psybeam after Psybeam. It looks like the tables have turned and that James is gonna win, but as he looks up at the gym leader, Mr. Moore doesn't look concerned at all. He orders Torkoal to use Eruption. Though Kirlia uses Double Team, the attack bathes the battlefield in lava. Kirlia has nowhere to dodge and is defeated by Torkoal. I can't believe it, James says. Even after evolving and learning new moves, Kirlia wasn't nearly strong enough to defeat Torkoal. Are you really a gym leader? James asks. Because what James didn't know was that Flannery's grandfather is the strongest gym leader Hoenn has ever had. After decades of battling, he almost never loses. Mr. Moore has been offered a position in the Elite Four multiple times, but always refuses, saying he much prefers the calm life of a gym leader in his hometown. Mr. Moore leaves Lava Ridge and heads towards Moss Deep, leaving James without a badge. James thinks to himself, that is the person standing between me and saving my Pokémon. I don't know how, but one day I will be strong enough to defeat him. When I agreed to let you help me, I told you I'd still be calling the shots. You will, but we can't make a move without their help. Is this trio that strong? Yes, and trust me, they're determined to catch Team Rocket more than anybody. Fine, Aston, they can help. You won't regret this, Steven. When we last left our heroes, James and Jessie had both suffered difficult losses in Fall Arbor and Lava Ridge. Jessie's Whismur was unable to overcome its stage fright and is now too afraid to leave its Pokeball, and James was absolutely wiped out by the Elite Four level gym leader, Mr. Moore. But there's no time to dwell on the losses. Their mission is too important. They need to bounce back and continue their journey to collect 8 badges and 5 ribbons to then save their stolen Pokemon from Team Rocket. James, Jessie, and Meowth leave Lava Ridge without a badge, but with their spirits unbroken. The journey continues. On their way to Rebello Town for Jessie's next contest, our lovable trio take a break at the nearby Lake May. They're there just in time for the May Festival, and it's exactly what they need to relax and recuperate after their losses. As the festival begins, music flows through the air, and everyone can't help but become intoxicated with it. The only thing missing from the festival are the stars. The Firefly Pokemon Illumise and Volbeat are meant to come out on nights like this and light up the festival, but none are appearing. That's very odd, and the crowds of people are beginning to get uneasy. Could the increased Team Rocket activity in Hoenn be scaring away even the wild Pokemon? There have been some Team Rocket sightings in the area, and sometimes at night, locals can hear the sounds of a monster. So perhaps the Volbeat and Illumise are too afraid to leave the forest. As the festival waits, James remembers that they have a tool that could help. He pulls out one of the flutes he and Jessie won back at the Flute Cup. The white flute, when played by James, calls nearby wild Pokemon to them. All of the Volbeat and Illumise hear the sound and leave the safety of the forest to light up the lake. The sight is absolutely awe-inspiring. Luckily, Team Rocket doesn't show up this time to ruin the festivities. After an evening of food, dance, music, and beautiful light displays, our trio wanders through the forest. As they do so, James swears he can hear something near the lake's opposite shore. A familiar roar, like the ones locals say often precedes a Team Rocket attack. James runs after it, with Jessie and Meowth following after. But whatever made that roar, whether Team Rocket or something else, it's long gone. However, the trio do come across an Illumise and Volbeat who didn't leave the forest with the others and who are crying? Meowth approaches them and asks them what's wrong. You see, all of the Illumise and Volbeat in this area are supposed to migrate to the other side of Hoenn. These two, however, are much older than the others, and their wings are too weak to make such a long journey. After years spent looking for the perfect mate, to have finally found one and not be able to migrate, the sadness is overwhelming for them. James and Jessie can't stand to see the two so sad, and they offer to help. James and Jessie offer to catch both of them and carry them to the other side of Hoenn for them. They promise to release them when the two are ready to return to the wild and begin their new lives together. Volbeat and Illumise are stunned by the kind offer from the humans. It's exactly what they need. Volbeat and Illumise agree and join Jessie and James's team, promising to help the humans any way they can as they journey to their new home across Hoenn. After the emotional but magical time at Lake May, the trio continue their journey. They have more reason than ever to keep moving forward. After passing through the Forbidden Forest and Mount Kirikiri, the trio arrive in Rebello Town. Jessie enters her first contest after her loss in Fall Arbor. Knowing Whismur's fear now, she won't make him do anything he doesn't want to. Instead, for the appeals stage, Jessie decides to use Volbeat. The old bug type turns out to be a natural-born performer. Jessie tells him to imagine every person in the audience is the love of his life, Illumise. And this works! He performs like love is on the line and does a dazzling display using Signal Beam to create an Illumise in the air using light. Jessie not only qualifies for the battle stage, but gets the highest score amongst all of the appeals. Talk about a comeback. Volbeat has no trouble in the quarterfinals after it defeats a coordinator's Mawile using Signal Beam and Tackle, and Mawile's coordinator is visibly angry to have lost against Volbeat so easily. He actually has to be escorted out of the arena by security. What a sore loser. In the semifinals, Spoink makes his battle debut against a coordinator's Masquerain. Even though he has a type disadvantage, this doesn't seem to bother Spoink at all. He doesn't back down or flinch, and charges his cute self towards the bug type. Using a unique combination of Psywave and Psybeam, Spoink absolutely destroys Masquerain. In the finals, Jessie faces off against a coordinator called Mr. Grimm, who will one day give up Pokemon coordinating at the behest of his wife. Against his Dusclops, Jessie takes a risk and sends out Spoink once more. He did so well against Masquerain, she has complete trust in him. The battle looks very evenly matched at first, with both exchanging powerful attacks. But Dusclops is able to clip Spoink with a Nightshade, which doesn't do too much damage, but it does knock Spoink's Pearl off of his head. Usually when a Spoink loses its Pearl, it becomes very sleepy. But this Spoink isn't like others. The second Spoink's Pearl is knocked off, his eyes glow red with anger. He doesn't get sleepy, he gets furious. In his anger, Spoink fires off an extremely powerful Shadow Ball and defeats Mr. Grimm's Dusclops in an instant. With a victorious shout, Spoink begins to glow at center stage. After his battles against Team Rocket and his intense victory here, Spoink is evolving. He evolves into Grumpig, and while he may be bigger, he's still the cute little warrior everyone knows and loves. Thanks to Jessie's 2 newest Pokemon, she wins her 4th contest ribbon, and everyone learns a valuable lesson. Do not touch Grumpig's pearls. Riding high on her victory, the trio leaves the arena in good spirits, but they hear an argument going on near the side exit of the arena. The coordinator who Jessie defeated in the quarterfinals is yelling at his Mawile. How could you lose so easily to some stupid bug? When I caught you, I expected a steel type to be a little tougher. You're pathetic. Hey, what the heck do you think you're doing? Jessie yells at the coordinator. He goes to shove his own Mawile before Jessie knocks him down herself. I literally encountered criminals trying to steal Pokemon outside arenas, yet you are still the worst person I've ever met at a contest. You don't deserve a Pokemon like Mawile. But Jessie's words fall on deaf ears, and Mawile's trainer, let's call him Stu, last name Pid, chooses to release her in frustration. Go on, go be someone else's problem. And Stu leaves the area, with Jessie fuming behind him. She wants to run after him and beat him to a pulp, but seeing the small Mawile crying alone behind her, she instead turns to care for her. Ignore everything he said. You're not pathetic at all. Mawile's mood brightens just a little, but Jessie can tell she's still very shaken. She couldn't possibly leave Mawile alone. What do you say you come with us? Mawile's a little nervous, but can tell that there's something different about Jessie. She agrees and accepts the Pokeball Jessie offers her. Wanting to add Mawile to her team right away, Jessie decides to send Whismur to James's grandparents. Whismur still hasn't left his Pokeball since losing the Fall Arbor contest from stage fright, and some time away from their journey amongst their other Pokemon may help him relax and recover. Passing the Hoenn Weather Institute, the trio heads into Fortree for James's next gym battle, but before that, they attend the city's famous Feather Carnival. They enjoy food, fun, games, and James is encountered by an old friend. The Magikarp salesman he met after missing the SS Anne in Vermilion City is here selling his wares once again. As James approaches him, the salesman gets worried that he's going to get mad at him for selling him such a weak Pokemon back then, but James feels the opposite. He thanks the man for selling him what ultimately became one of his strongest Pokemon, and a really close friend. He almost tears up remembering Gyarados, and when he closes his eyes, he can still hear his soothing roar. James asks the salesman if he has anything exciting, and he tells James he has basically the Hoenn version of Magikarp, a Feebas. He tells James he will give him a good deal this time, and James jumps at the chance. He purchases a Feebas and sends her straight to his grandparents where she can hang out with Lickitung and Slowpoke. The next day, they head to the Fortree gym and James faces off against the flying type specialist, Vladimir. Against the gym leader who will one day retire, move to Lily Cove, and teach Ash about Aerial Ace, James has a 3-on-3 battle. Vladimir sends out Pidgeotto and James sends out Illumise. Illumise may be new to battling with James, but does very well. A combination of Tackle and Silver Wind does a lot of damage, but unfortunately, Pidgeotto is able to do just as much damage with Aerial Ace. Both Pokemon are knocked out at the same time, turning this battle into a 2-on-2. Jessie's Volbeat jumps out of its Pokeball and nearly attacks the Pidgeotto himself, but luckily Meowth is able to hold him back. Vladimir then sends out his Swellow, and James sends out Kirlia. Though Kirlia does some damage with Psybeam, Swellow's aerial advantage allows it to dodge most attacks easily, and also gets behind Kirlia to knock her out with a powerful Aerial Ace. James is down to his last Pokemon, and after seeing how big of an advantage Vladimir's flying types have here, he gets an idea. A little something he's been working on for just such an occasion. James sends out Chimecho. Though the little psychic type doesn't seem like much of a battler, Vladimir underestimating them is also part of the plan. He orders Swellow to attack with Aerial Ace, but as the flying type soars down towards Chimecho, James orders them to use Gravity. The unexpected move forces Swellow to become grounded, and he slams into the arena floor with a massive crash. Without the ability to fly and avoid attacks, Swellow is helpless, and Chimecho knocks it out with Wrap. Vladimir's surprised to see James's strategy, but is confident in his ace, and sends out Tropius. While Chimecho is hit directly with a Body Slam and paralyzed, it's nothing a Heal Bell can't fix. With a well-timed Gravity, Tropius is as vulnerable as Swellow was, and Chimecho knocks her out with Astonish and Double Edge. Thanks to the unexpected powerhouse of Chimecho, James wins and earns his 4th badge, the Feather Badge. After leaving Fortree, our trio sees signs for a new high-tech city being constructed nearby called La Rousse City, but as they haven't constructed a gym yet, there's no reason to go out of their way to check it out. Talking with some trainers near the Safari Zone, James hears that there's a Ghost-type gym somewhere between Fortree and Lily Cove. But this next gym is unique, as the leader isn't in a nearby town, but training with and against the ghost types of Mount Pyre. The gym leader is waiting near the summit for challengers brave enough to search through the haunted area for a battle, and James isn't turning away from any challenge with his friends on the line. The trio heads to Mount Pyre, and though some ghost types do mess with them during the trek up, they eventually come face to face with the gym leader, the one-day Elite Four member, Phoebe. She's impressed that the ghost types of the area didn't scare him away, and happily accepts his request for a battle. Little does Phoebe know, James has a bit of experience with spooky ghost types. Against Phoebe, James sends out Cacnea to face her Dusclops. Though Dusclops is able to burn Cacnea with Will-O-Wisp, she's able to defeat the ghost type with a super effective feint attack. But the burn really holds her back, and against Phoebe's second Pokemon, Banette, Cacnea is knocked out by Shadow Ball. James sends out Illumise, and while she's able to use Confuse Ray and Protect to force Banette to damage itself once, it's also able to defeat her with a perfectly aimed Shadow Ball, to Volbeat's intense anger. James sends out Growly, hoping the puppy Pokemon can come in clutch and defeat 2 of Phoebe's Pokemon. And when she orders Banette to use Feint Attack, the very move Cacnea used to defeat Dusclops, Phoebe inadvertently falls right into James's trap. Thanks to Growly's ability Justified, he gets an attack boost that helps Flare Blitz take out Banette with ease. Then, against Phoebe's last Pokemon Sableye, Growly holds nothing back. This isn't his first battle against a Sableye, and he uses Fire Blast to knock away a Shadow Ball before taking out the Ghost type with a powered-up Flare Blitz. Remembering his fight with Blinky and Cassidy's Sableye was all the fuel he needed to win. The good boy absolutely wrecked Phoebe's last 2 Pokemon, and James is given his 5th badge, the Spirit Badge. Jessie's next contest is in Lily Cove, which is not too far from Mount Pyre, and with 4 ribbons in her case, this could be her last contest in Hoenn. If she wins here, she will have all the ribbons needed to qualify for the Grand Festival. Jessie and her team are super prepared to win, and they enter the arena in Lily Cove with victory on their mind. Mawile takes center stage for the appeals, and motivated by the desire to rise above that awful trainer who abandoned her, Mawile performs beautifully. She creates a dazzling display using Swords Dance and Iron Defense, showcasing what power she has when maxing out her attack and defense. Casey, a coordinator Jessie has competed with in the past, also makes it past the appeals stage. Jessie's gonna congratulate her in the locker room, but as she goes to shake her hand, Casey freaks out and runs away. She must have seen something, or someone, she didn't like. Jessie thinks it was awfully weird for her to just forfeit like that, but she doesn't have much time to think about it, as her old friend Aston approaches her to say hi. He was in the area with his friend, and he wants Jessie to meet him after the contest. Apparently Aston and his new friend have a favor to ask Jessie and James, but that'll have to wait till after the contest. Jessie blazes past the quarter and semi-finals thanks to Wobbuffet's Mirror Coats and Seviper's Poison Tails. But as high as Jessie is flying, her heart sinks when she sees who her opponent is in the finals. The trainer who she watched win the Fall Arbor contest, Wallace, the Water-type specialist. Jessie sends out Mawile to face off against Wallace's Swampert. The battle initially goes in Jessie's favor. While Swampert does damage with Earthquake, Mawile's able to mitigate it by using Iron Defense. But even after a Swords Dance, an Iron Head barely does any damage to Swampert. Without a move that the Water and Ground type can't resist, even with maxed out stats, Mawile can't defeat Swampert. Swampert even shows off its versatility by doing heavy damage with an unexpected Iron Tail against the Steel type. Mawile struggles till the last second, never succumbing to the damage and fainting, but when the result is left to the judges, they make a quick decision. The battle was clearly Wallace and Swampert's. Mawile is in tears after losing against Wallace. Her mind flashes back to how her last trainer treated her and is terrified that Jessie is also going to yell at her and abandon her. Before Jessie can put Mawile back in her Pokeball, the little Steel type runs into the locker rooms crying. Jessie chases after her and doesn't hesitate to hold Mawile in her arms. "You did amazing today, Mawile. I'm so proud of you," is all Jessie says as she rocks back and forth until Mawile calms down. She can tell Mawile was thinking back to how her old trainer treated her, but Jessie could never do something so awful. Remembering all she's been through with her Pokemon in her adventures, like with Arbok, Sneasel, Cloyster, Whismur, and everyone else, Jessie could never hurt Mawile. In time, she calms down, with Mawile feeling more secure in her place with Jessie. The two may not have won the Lily Cove contest, but they leave the arena closer than ever before. Jessie tries to find Aston after the contest to meet his mystery friend and hear what he wanted to ask her, but she can't find him. First Casey disappears, and now Aston and his friend? What a weird coincidence! Jessie returns Mawile to her Pokeball and meets back up with James and Meowth. Just as the trio is about to leave Lily Cove, they run into a woman in the streets carrying a bunch of bags. She apologizes and introduces herself as Glacia. Apparently, she just retired as a gym leader here and is heading to travel the world to become stronger so she can one day return to become a member of the Elite Four. James jumps at the chance for an unexpected gym battle and asks her if she still happens to have any badges left. She says yes, she still has one, but she was hoping to save it as a keepsake from her time as a gym leader. James begs her to battle him, saying that he's running out of time to get all 8 badges. Glacia can see the passion in James's eyes, and it reminds her why she wanted to become a gym leader in the first place. She agrees, and decides that James is the perfect person to have her final gym battle with. Returning to the closed Lily Cove gym, Glacia opens it back up, and she and James have a 2-on-2 battle. Growly is sent in to battle Glacia's Glalie, and everyone assumes the plucky little fire type will have an easy victory. But after a fire blast injures Glalie, Growly gets frozen solid by an ice beam. James has no choice and switches Growly out for Vigoroth. The battle is surprisingly close despite Glalie being damaged, but ultimately Vigoroth comes out on top using a super effective Focus Punch. Next up is Glacia's ace, Walrein, and despite being damaged by another Focus Punch, Walrein is able to defeat Vigoroth using sheer cold. James is as good as defeated, as he's got no choice but to send out the frozen Growly. Glacia can't help but laugh a little, and asks James if he would prefer to forfeit rather than watch his Pokemon damaged by her Walrein. And James considers it, for less than a second, but instead of answering her, he just smirks. Glacia doesn't understand what Growly has. An inner fire. Knowing this battle is on his shoulders, and that the fate of his friends could be too, Growly's body heats up to volcanic temperatures. He explosively bursts through the ice, and the cocky Walrein is stunned. The water ice type is too shocked to move, and can't dodge Growly's unexpected attack. Inspired by the Iron Tail used to defeat Jessie in the recent contest, Growly comes in clutch with a newly learned Iron Tail himself. He defeats Glacia's ace Walrein against all odds with a single powerful attack. Glacia's as stunned as her Pokemon was, and realizes that she still has a lot to learn if she wishes to become a member of the Elite Four. James is awarded his 6th badge, the Hail Badge. He thanks Glacia immensely for letting him fight her, and the trio wave goodbye to her as she leaves Hoenn. One day, after years of training and traveling, she will return to Hoenn and finally become a member of the Elite Four. Booking passage on a ferry that makes a few stops at Bomba, Maisie, and Wazoo Island, the trio finally end up in Sutopolis City. It's an absolutely gorgeous place, and they can't help but take some time to explore the city and relax. After some time, James and Jessie decide to call his grandparents and check in on their Pokemon. James's Lickitung and Jessie's Yanma are doing great, and Whisper has finally come out of his Pokeball and is doing much better. Apparently, James's Slowpoke has been spending a lot of time with both Whismur and Feebas, helping both build up their confidence and skills. James's grandparents insist that there's something special about this Slowpoke, and after working with the seemingly lazy-looking Pokemon, Feebas flops into screen, and thanks to Meowth's translation, James learns that she really wants to battle. James agrees and sends Chimecho to have a break, and adds Feebas to his team. Finally ready to take on the Sutopolis gym, James challenges the leader Hoenn to a battle. It will be a 3-on-3 fight. James sends out Cacnea to face off against Hoenn's Love Disc. With the type advantage and the, let's say, not at all intimidating look of Love Disc, James thinks this first battle is in the bag. And Pokemon battles just love checking a person's overconfidence, don't they? Cacnea gets a hit in with Needle Arm, but after a sweet kiss from Love Disc confuses her, Cacnea's a sitting duck to Water Pulse after Water Pulse. Cacnea is unexpectedly beaten by the heart-shaped Kissing Fish, not to be confused with the non-heart-shaped Kissing Fish Pokemon. James is taken aback by the loss, but his experience helps him shake it off quickly, and with a clear mind, he makes a bold choice. James sends out Feebas. Feebas versus Love Disc doesn't sound like it's gonna be an epic battle, but let me assure you, it is. It's so intense, so mind-boggling, so overwhelmingly powerful that I cannot even show it to you now. Like, I wish you could see it, but it would melt your faces off. Ultimately, in addition to the destruction of half of the arena, Feebas is able to defeat Love Disc. Just barely. And with its debut performance and first victory comes a worthy reward. Feebas glows white light and evolves into the most beautiful Pokemon ever, Milotic. With a flick of its tail, it showers the arena in shimmering water, and if this were a contest, that would have been enough to win the appeals stage. With so much newfound power and moves, Hoenn isn't ready for Milotic. Using a combination of Twister and Water Pulse, she beautifully and effortlessly defeats Hoenn's Whiscash and his Crawdaunt. Milotic proves to Hoenn, James, and anyone watching, she is queen of the water Pokemon, and don't you forget it. Taking a ferry, oh my god, so many ferries, past Whales Island, the gang ends up in Purika City, where Jessie's last chance is waiting for her. If she doesn't win her 5th ribbon here, she won't qualify for the Grand Festival. She enters the massive Purika Contest Hall, heavy with anticipation. As she sits in the coordinator waiting area, planning her strategy, a nearby attendant tells her that she has a call. Apparently, James's grandparents have been having some issues with Whismur. The little Pokemon has been training like crazy and will not calm down until Jessie re-adds him to her team. She can see the determination he has and decides to put all of her faith in him. Jessie replaces Mawile, who could use a little rest after the emotional showing in Lily Cove, and adds Whismur back to her team. Though Jessie's reluctant to allow it, Whismur insists on being used in the contest. Whatever training Whismur's been doing with her and James's Pokemon has done wonders to his confidence. There's a fire in his eyes, and Jessie proudly sends out Whismur for the appeals stage. And standing there, in front of a packed house, Whismur hesitates. All of the fear he had back in Fall Arbor rushes back. Like a cold wind, being on stage sends shivers down Whismur's back. But Whismur shakes its head and remembers the advice Slowpoke gave him. The world won't turn to ash if you fail, so don't worry about it. Knowing that takes a lot of the pressure off. Whismur creates a dazzling display using an unexpected hyper voice. Jessie was expecting just a screech, but hyper voice takes everyone by surprise, and Jessie qualifies for the battle stage. There's a big voice in that small Pokemon. So impressed he was able to get over his stage fright, Jessie uses Whismur for her quarterfinals battle. Against a coordinator named Sheridan, who will one day become a Pokemon cheerleader, Whismur faces off against Roselia. Though Roselia uses aromatherapy to cure an unexpected paralysis from Whismer's Thunder Punch, the tiny normal type is able to defeat the grass type using its hyper voice. Whismer wins its first battle ever, and with tears of joy in its eyes, knowing it didn't let Jessie down, Whismer begins to glow. In a triumphant pose, Whismer evolves into Loudred. With a newfound power as Loudred, Jessie's confident entering the semi-finals. She faces off against a trainer who is originally from Johto, named Will. Will has also won 4 ribbons, and apparently hasn't lost a battle yet, but today, all that will change. Jessie isn't intimidated by Will's reputation like she was with Wallace. He sends out Xatu, and she sticks with Loudred. The battle's very evenly matched, with the two swapping Psybeams and Hyper Voices, both doing as much damage as they take. It's no surprise Will is destined to join the Elite Four in Johto, as he makes Jessie and Loudred fight for each and every point. By using a super effective Astonish, Loudred is able to cause Xatu to flinch, and in that moment, lands one final Hyper Voice. Loudred knocks out Xatu, winning its second battle, and against a very powerful coordinator too. And shouting in victory, Loudred shines white light? Again? The audience and Jessie alike are stunned. Loudred evolves for the second time in just as many battles into Exploud. When Whismer entered the arena, he was a tiny and shy Pokemon, but as he enters the finals, he's one of the biggest, strongest, loudest Pokemon around. And in the finals, Exploud has no trouble at all. The semi-finals battle against Will was much more difficult, and Exploud defeats a trainer's Shift Tree using a combination of Hyper Voice and a newly learned Hyper Beam. Jessie and Exploud are the undeniable winners of the Purika contest, and that means Jessie earns her 5th ribbon. She did it! And all thanks to the newest powerhouse addition to her team, Exploud. With his strength and newfound confidence, Jessie is closer than ever to winning the Grand Festival and saving her friends from Team Rocket. Just as Jessie had only one shot left in Purika, James realizes that his last shot awaits him in Moss Deep. Flannery's grandfather, Mr. Moore, who defeated James back in Lava Ridge, should still be in Moss Deep for the test launches of the new shuttle. While James might be able to find a gym elsewhere to get his 8th badge, he feels compelled to have this rematch. If he can't defeat Mr. Moore, would he really be strong enough to save his friends? Jessie and Meowth support James's decision, knowing there's no changing his mind once it's made up. The trio travel to Moss Deep, and once there, head straight to the launch station where Mr. Moore is. The gym leader recognizes James immediately, and admits he isn't shocked to see him again. He could tell from their first battle that James was a very determined young man, and would never be able to rest until they faced off again. In the outskirts of Moss Deep, Mr. Moore and James have their rematch, and with how close the registration deadline is for the Evergrande Conference, this is James's last shot to qualify. It's now or never. James sends out Milotic, and Mr. Moore sends out Torkoal, the very Pokemon that single-handedly wiped out James's team the first time. But James is much more prepared this time. Torkoal tries to power up its fire-type attacks by using Sunny Day, but Milotic counters it with Rain Dance. Torkoal burns Milotic with Flamethrower, but Milotic uses Refresh to remove the burn. Mr. Moore can tell James has grown a lot as a trainer, and he put a lot of thought into this battle. And he's right, James has been devising strategies to defeat Mr. Moore ever since losing to him. There's too much on the line for him to slack off. Though Torkoal was once able to defeat James all on his own, it is defeated by a single rain-boosted Water Pulse by Milotic. Mr. Moore is shocked to have lost with Torkoal. It's been some time since Torkoal lost to anyone, but as an Elite Four level gym leader, he doesn't flinch at the loss. He sends out Camerupt next. James initially thinks this is a terrible choice. Milotic's Water Pulse is 4 times effective against the Fire and Ground type, but Mr. Moore is not to be underestimated. He orders Camerupt to use Attract. The beautiful Milotic is overwhelmed by Camerupt's handsomeness, and in that delay, he's able to hit her with an Eruption. Just as it seems like Milotic is done for, she's able to shake off the Attract. Milotic cannot be distracted by something as simple as Attract. She uses Water Pulse, defeating Camerupt in a single hit. Mr. Moore is down to his last Pokemon, which is not something he's had to deal with for years. But being backed into a corner has got him more fired up than ever. He sends out his ace, Typhlosion. As powerful as Milotic is, she's undeniably weakened from the first 2 battles. After the Fire type dodges a Water Pulse, he defeats Milotic with a Solar Beam. James sends out Vigoroth next. Though Vigoroth is able to get in a focus punch against Typhlosion, the fire type is able to take out the sloth Pokemon with a combination of Flame Wheel and Flamethrower. James is down to his last Pokemon, and he knows exactly who to choose. The very Pokemon that James bet his entire journey on in his first battle with Mr. Moore. James sends out Kirlia. Typhlosion dodges Kirlia's Psybeams with ease, and after she uses Double Team to try and trick the fire type, Mr. Moore gets around this move just like he did the first time, with Eruption. The battlefield is coated with lava, destroying all of Kirlia's Double Team clones and knocking her back. Hurt intensely by such a powerful attack, Kirlia falls over, nearly fainting. It all feels far too familiar. Hurt by Eruption, Mr. Moore's unshaken confidence, and with Kirlia being the only thing standing between victory and defeat, everything's on the line. And this time, she won't let James down. Kirlia glows bright white and evolves into Gardevoir. Mr. Moore smirks at James. Your Pokemon evolving didn't win you the battle last time, so don't think it will matter now. But James knows that this is nothing like last time. Gardevoir's expression is telling James one thing. She will not lose. Mr. Moore orders Typhlosion to use Eruption once more, but Gardevoir uses Protect to avoid the damage. She then uses Calm Mind, showcasing to the gym leader that nothing he does will dampen her spirits. Mr. Moore begins to sweat for the first time. This could actually be enough. He panics and orders Typhlosion to use Eruption again, but once more Gardevoir uses Protect. Eruption is clearly getting weaker with each hit. Gardevoir uses Calm Mind once more, and everyone watching can tell this battle is over. Typhlosion's attack is weak, and Gardevoir is stronger and more determined than ever. James orders her to use a new move, Stored Power. Every boost gained from her Calm Mind fuels the attack, and Typhlosion is enveloped in a beam of pink radiant light. James and Mr. Moore shield their eyes from the attack, but when the light dissipates, the battle is over. Typhlosion lays fainted, and Gardevoir stands tall. James has won! Mr. Moore can't believe it, but seeing the joy and strength in James and Gardevoir's eyes, he realizes there's no one better to have bested him. You really earned this badge, he says to James, and gives him his 8th and final badge, the Heat Badge. And Mr. Moore doesn't leave empty-handed either. As James continues his journey, the gym leader realizes it might be getting time for him to move on too. He vows to begin helping his granddaughter train to take over for him, and maybe now he will finally take up the league's offer to join the Elite Four. Holding cases filled to the brim with badges and ribbons, James and Jessie have done it. They've qualified to compete in the Evergrande Conference and the Grand Festival. As excited as they are to accomplish this, it means more to know that saving their Pokemon is just a few victories away. If Butch and Cassidy are true to their word, and why would villains lie? All they have to do is win, and they will save their friends. From Moss Deep, they are only one ferry away from the island where these final tournaments will be held. Unfortunately, there are a lot of trainers and coordinators looking to go to the same place. Apparently, ferry tickets are sold out everywhere. Luckily for our heroes, a familiar face is here to give them a ferry ride. The mustached ferry captain who took them to Petalburg Woods. He's coincidentally here and offers them a free ride straight to the tournaments. He only has one other passenger, who happens to also be a familiar face. The coordinator, Casey. Jessie's pretty surprised Casey qualified for the Grand Festival, considering how badly she's done in the contest so far. But everyone has off days. James and Jessie agree, and they take the ferry across the misty waters. Only Meowth is suspicious of how perfect this situation is. After a relatively short trip, James, Jessie, Meowth, Casey, and the ferry captain arrive at the island where the Grand Festival and Evergrande Conference will be held. The Grand Festival is first, and Jessie has to head to the admin building to register, but all three of them feel something off about this island. There are trainers and coordinators everywhere, but they don't recognize anyone from past tournaments or contests. Jessie thought for sure Whitney, Wallace, and maybe Will would be here. Plus, all of the stands and buildings seem empty? Well, maybe they're just early. Jessie heads into the admin building to register, and James and Meowth wander around for a bit. They'll meet up later. But as James and Meowth wander around, James can hear something. Something familiar. In the foggy distance, James can see a silhouette that tells him exactly what is making that noise. The same noise he heard back at Lake May. It's a Gyarados, And not just any Gyarados. This is his Gyarados. James runs towards the silhouette by the water, with Meowth running after him. Meowth can tell that this isn't right, though, and when James gets close, he knows why. It isn't Gyarados, but a Gyarados-shaped robot. What is this? Some kind of mech? What's going on here? And James gets his answer. All of the trainers around him remove their disguises and reveal they are all Team Rocket agents. Casey and the ferry captain approach too and remove their disguises to reveal they are Butch and Cassidy.
To infect the world with devastation.
To blight all peoples in every nation.
To denounce the goodness of truth and love.
To extend a happy cat.
Welcome to the end of your journey, little champion, Cassidy says to James. What are you two doing here? Oh, we've been keeping an eye on you two for a while now, waiting for the perfect time to strike. Strike? What do you mean? We had a deal. We still have time to win the Grand Festival and the Evergrande. Oh, please. You think we would actually give you a chance to win? We were just hoping you'd catch a bunch of new strong Pokemon for us to steal again. James reaches for a Pokeball, ready to fight to protect his friends. You'll never steal more of my Pokemon. Oh, James, when will you learn? Team Rocket doesn't play fair. All of the Rocket agents laugh, and Butch takes out a switch. Bye, loser. He presses the switch, and James and Meowth realize they were lured to this specific spot by the Gyarados mech on purpose. The ground releases beneath them, and they fall into a giant pitfall trap. The two fall and fall underground, trapped in Team Rocket's secret Hoenn base. James, Meowth, where did everyone go? Hello, Jessie. Aston, what are you doing here? This is gonna sound crazy, but we were hiding on that ferry. We've been tracking Team Rocket for weeks now. Don't be alarmed, but this isn't the Grand Festival. Team Rocket's hidden base is underneath this secret island. What? What are you saying? And what do you mean, we? Stepping out from behind Aston, a trainer, Mr. Stone's son, steps forward. Hello, Jessie. My name is Steven. Aston and I have been working with the Hoenn police for some time. Today is the day we send Team Rocket blasting out of Hoenn. What do you say, Jessie? Want to help us defeat Team Rocket and save your friends? Let's take them down. When we last left our heroes, Butch and Cassidy had sprung a trap that was a long time in the making. After keeping a watchful eye on Jessie, James, and their rare talking Meowth as they journeyed across Hoenn, they used their Team Rocket resources to entrap them, turning their secret underground Hoenn base into a fake grand festival and luring James and Meowth away with the recorded sounds of Gyarados. Blorp and Cassidy caught them both. The two now confidently enter their underground base with several other Rocket agents in tow. You new recruits should be taking notes, Cassidy says to the group. Butch and I only recently graduated Team Rocket Academy, but we've already taken Hoenn by storm. We've sent agents to steal Pokemon from trainers and coordinators while never losing sight of the real prize. Those two twerps talking Meowth. Cassidy and Butch are explaining their plan to two new Rocket agents in particular, two that you may recognize, a young Maxie and Archie. While they will one day form their own evil teams, Team Magma and Team Aqua, at this young age they're with Team Rocket. They're gaining all the experience they'll need to see their own evil plans come to light in the future. Cassidy, Biff, Maxie, and Archie, along with several Rocket grunts, walk down a long stairwell into the underground base where James and Meowth have been captured. Hello? Is anyone there? Where am I? His head foggy, James can barely remember what just happened. He was at the Grand Festival with Jessie, but not. Something went wrong. There was a roar, a pit, and Team Rocket. Team Rocket tricked him again! James is trapped in a cage deep underground after falling for the evil organization's latest scheme. Thinking he was just a handful of battles away from saving his friends, James let his guard down. He pulls at the cage door, trying to free himself, but it's no use. He's stuck. Just as James is about to tear up, he can see a figure outside the cage. In the dim light of the cave, he can't make out who it is, but James is ready to attack anyone who approaches him like a caged wild animal. As they get closer though, he can see that it's Meowth. As the two fell down the pitfall trap, Meowth luckily wasn't caught in the cage that awaited them at the bottom. He's ecstatic to see that besides some bumps and bruises, James is alright. But before Meowth can try and free James, the two hear footsteps in the distance. Meowth quickly hides behind a nearby rock to avoid being seen. Butch, Cassidy, and several Rocket agents arrive. There's an air of giddiness as many of them are still laughing at their successful trap. Another successful trap. As Team Rocket enters the cave, they turn on the lights. James can now see the bulk of the underground base. There are devices, machinery, equipment, and shelves of Pokeballs, likely all stolen from across Hoenn. "Hello, Jamesy. Enjoying your accommodation?" Cassidy says and approaches the cage. "I would have preferred to catch your hot-headed friend Jessie too, but I'm sure she'll be captured soon enough. The rest of you head up and find her," Cassidy says to the nameless grunts who leave the cave to find Jessie. "Why are you doing this? We had a deal," James says, his knuckles turning white as he grips the cage tightly. "And you trusted us? Well, you're a bigger fool than I thought." "Yeah, a mega fool," Bort chimes in. "Luckily, the world is full of chumps like you, James," Cassidy says, and both she and Butch reveal their belts. Both have 5 Pokeballs on them, and James knows immediately that they are his and Jessie's Pokemon, the ones the evil duo stole from them. Gullible idiots keep Team Rocket in business. Speaking of business, let's get down to it. Cassidy approaches the cage, but her cocky smile immediately shatters as she sees that James is alone. "Where is Meowth?" Cassidy yells at James. "Well, if you're so smart, find him yourself," James says, glaring at Cassidy. "He's our main target. Madam Boss wants that talking Meowth more than anything. Spread out and find him. He can't have gone far," Cassidy says, and she, Bingo, Maxie, and Archie search the cave for Meowth. Meowth covers his mouth, afraid to make any sound. The Rocket agents send out their Pokemon to help find him, and the cave becomes crowded with Sableye, Mightyena, Carvanha, and Numel. Cassidy has Sableye use Psychic to hold James in place so he can't help at all. Meowth is completely outnumbered. He can't stay hidden for much longer. The tiny cat Pokemon curls up into a ball, wishing someone would come rescue him, like how James rescued him back in Kanto, when Meowth was strung up by that sadistic coach. If James hadn't come along and rescued him, Meowth would have spent the rest of his days alone and in pain. Meowth can feel himself about to cry, but remembering what James did for him back then, he holds back his tears. He stands up and confidently steps out from his hiding spot. "Ah, there you are," Cassidy says, and all 4 Rocket agents and their Pokemon converge on Meowth. Meowth's paws shake in fear. It's up to him to save James, but how? He's just one small Meowth against so many. What can he do? He can do what he does best. He learned to mimic humans when he needed to speak. All he has to do is mimic James and not run away from a challenge. Meowth jumps forward and uses Scratch on Carvanha and Numel, but the 2 Pokemon knock Meowth back. Maxie and Archie order their Pokemon to capture the talking Meowth, who's attacked relentlessly with water guns and embers. But Meowth refuses to give up. Though injured, Meowth digs deep and hones in on the skill that makes him unique. He uses a new move, one not far from what he did to learn how to speak like humans. He uses Mimic. Mimicking the water gun from Carvanha, Meowth knocks out Numel with a super effective attack. Maxie is shocked, and before Archie can react, Meowth mimics Sableye's Psychic to lift Carvanha and toss it at Archie, Maxie, and Numel, knocking them all back into the wall. He turns his attention to Butch and Cassidy, ready to save James, but as Meowth's eyes glow with psychic power, he's attacked from behind with a body slam by Cassidy's Eradicate. Meowth is knocked down, too injured to get up. "No! No, you can't do this!" he screams. "We just did. I'll admit I wasn't expecting to see you use Mimic, but I guess that just makes you a better prize for Madam Boss. Capturing you was inevitable. After all, what can one little Meowth do all by himself?" "He's not by himself," a voice from the distance says. An egg is thrown and explodes on Raticate, separating him from Meowth. Jessie, Chansey, Steven, and Aston are by the cave entrance. Jessie's holding one of the Rocket grunts by the collar, clearly having just beat him to a pulp. The group runs in, and Jessie grabs Meowth in her arms. "Don't worry, Meowth. We'll take it from here." Wobbuffet, by Jessie's side, sticks his tongue out at Butch and Cassidy, who are fuming at their former Pokémon. Traitor! They both shout at the psychic type, who continues to mock them. Cassidy, panicking, hits an emergency alarm which blares through the base. From another hallway, a dozen rocket grunts enter to back her and Bangarang up. Jessie, Aston, you can handle Butch and Cassidy, right? Leave the rest to me, Steven says, cracking his knuckles. He sends out his Metagross, holding back a dozen rocket grunts all by himself. Aston sends out his Delcatty, who with Chansey is able to hold back Raticate, Mightyena, and Sableye. Delcatty and Chansey fire off quick attacks and egg bombs, while Jessie and Wobbuffet run to help James. Smashing the cage's lock with anger-fueled strength, Jessie frees James. He sends out Growly to join the fight against Team Rocket. The 3-on-3 battle is intense, fueled with more on the line than a simple victory. Their friends' fates rest in the balance. However, Butch and Cassidy are fueled by an almost equal motivation: their deep fear of upsetting Madam Boss. Terrified of the Rocket leader, they are able to knock out Aston's Delcatty and injure Chansey and Growly. Well, looks like we're gonna win after all, Cassidy says with a manic laugh. Depends on what you mean by win, Jessie says. Because to us, winning is getting back our Pokémon, James smiles. Butch and Cassidy quickly look down at their belts, only to see that all of the Pokeballs have been taken. Meowth, though still hurt pretty badly, mimicked Delcatty's quick attack and snatched all 10 stolen Pokeballs while the Rocket duo was distracted. James and Jessie hold the Pokeballs of their stolen friends, both fighting back tears. They've journeyed for so long across Hoenn, all to get to this moment. Both look at Butch and Cassidy with smiles that scream, "You're done for." The Rocket duo begins to shake with fear as Jessie and James send out all 10 of their stolen Pokémon at once. The cave is filled with Weezing, Gyarados, Nidoqueen, Ditto, Carnivine, Arbok, Sneasel, Cloyster, Gengar, and Hitmonlee. But you can't do that! That's too many Pokemon at once, right? This isn't a fair battle, right? Cassidy says, shaking in terror. Oh, didn't you know? James says, stepping forward with confidence. Team Rocket doesn't play fair. With the combined strength of all of their Pokemon, James and Jessie unleash an attack that, if this weren't a children's cartoon, would have disintegrated Butch and Cassidy on the spot. Luckily, this is for kids, so the attack of 12 Pokemon at once sends Butch and Cassidy blasting through the stone ceiling and off into the sky. James, Jessie, and Meowth watch Team Rocket until they disappear into the horizon. Until they hear that classic ding, they don't exhale. But once they're certain Butch and Cassidy are gone for good, they nearly faint from exhaustion and relief. But luckily, their old friends are there to catch them. Though James is caught by Nidoqueen, whose poison barbs sting him something fierce, the pain is a welcome reminder that they're all back together again. James and Jessie cry, their Pokemon doing the same. They hug in the underground base for what feels like an eternity, not wanting to ever let go of each other again. Steven, having already called in the Hoenn police, rendezvous with the arriving Officer Jenny's back on the surface. He and Aston have already tied up the other Rocket grunts, but Maxie and Archie are nowhere to be found. They likely came to and escaped during all the chaos. The captured grunts, however, are all taken to Hoenn prisons. All of the Officer Jennies collect the captured Pokeballs that were stored underground and begin the effort to return them to their trainers and coordinators. Team Rocket's invasion of Hoenn is over. Back underground, Jessie notices that not all of their Pokemon are participating in the group hug. Standing by himself with his head down is Sneasel. Jessie can't tell if Sneasel is hurt or angry, and she walks up to him. "Hello, Sneasel. I'm so happy to see you again. I've been thinking a lot about you, about all of you, since you were taken. I thought about how I caught you, and how you didn't always want to be on a team with me. I don't know. Maybe a part of you is happy to be taken away, and you being happy is all I want. If you want to be free now, I won't stop you." Sneasel lifts his head, and everyone sees the tears running down his face. Though still trying to hold on to his tough exterior, it's beginning to crack like the eggs he loves so much. Meowth translates what he has to say. "Don't talk like that. When I thought I was never gonna see you again, it was too much to bear. Leave you? I don't want to ever leave your side." The once troublesome and disobedient Pokémon runs towards Jessie and jumps into her arms. He decides to not hold back anymore, to stop fighting it and admit he's happy. I'm sorry I was so mean when you first caught me. I'm sorry I was mean to Chansey. I'm happy we're all together again. I don't want to be alone anymore. Jessie, James, Meowth, and all of their Pokémon nearly flood the island with their tears of joy. It's a reunion they've all been dreaming about for what feels like ages. Like years. Like almost 2 years. Despite not wanting to part from any of them, James and Jessie make the decision to send their newly freed Pokémon to James's grandparents. They each need some time to recuperate and heal after the ordeal they've been through. And with Chimecho still back there, James and Jessie know their Pokémon will be in good hands. Steven and Aston ask James and Jessie what they'll do now. The only reason they were competing was to save their Pokémon after all. The two think about it briefly, and they decide to see their Hoenn adventure through to the end. They want to travel to the Grand Festival and Evergrande Conference, the real ones. But first, they have one more place to visit, and one more promise to keep. With a personal escort provided by the Officer Jennies, James and Jessie leave the former Rocket Base and make their way to a very special destination. On their way to the real Grand Festival and Evergrande Conference, Jessie and James ask for a detour. They arrive at one of the furthest islands east in Hoenn, one they knew was just as important to reach as the Grand Festival Island. Though they were just reunited with their other Pokémon, they also have to say goodbye. They have arrived at the Migration Island for Volbeat and Illumise. On the island full of trees and fields of flowers, Jessie and James send out their Firefly Pokémon. As the two see the island, and the others of their kind, their eyes brighten up more than any signal beam. Back at Lake May, Jessie and James made a promise to an older Volbeat and Illumise who didn't have the strength to make it here on their own. After years spent searching for their perfect mates, they found each other at a time when their wings weren't strong enough to make the trip. But Jessie and James promised to make the journey for them, and they know how to keep their promises. Jessie and James haven't known the two bug Pokémon for long, but it's still extremely difficult to say goodbye to them. Jessie couldn't have won the Rubello contest without Volbeat's performance, and Illumise battled beautifully in James's Sky battle against Vladimir. It's tough to imagine finishing this adventure without them both, but seeing how happy Volbeat and Illumise are to finally be amongst their kind, after so many years of hoping, how could Jessie and James do any less? Before Volbeat and Illumise fly away, they both get an idea, a small gift to give the trainers who made their dreams come true. After a few minutes in the woods, they return to Jessie and James with small handfuls of extremely bright powder. James takes out a small bag, and they fill it with the appropriately named bright powder. Though small, it's a token of their extreme gratitude. Meowth wants to translate their goodbye, but he's feeling too choked up to speak. It's been an emotional few days, but his translation isn't needed. Jessie and James understand their friends perfectly. The two bug Pokémon wave goodbye, knowing they can enter their golden years together where they belong. James pulls out the flute collection he and Jessie won at the Flute Cup, the very one used to help initially find Volbeat and Illumise. Using the black flute, James serenades Volbeat and Illumise as they fly into the forest and begin their new life together. After their tearful farewell to Volbeat and Illumise, Jessie and James continue their journey away from the island, the last of their many boat trips through Hoenn. After a long adventure, like really long, Jessie finally arrives at the real Grand Festival, and this time there's no sense of confusion or dread at how odd everything appears. This is undeniably the real thing. James and Meowth explore the festival, and Jessie enters the registration building. Jessie sees a bunch of familiar faces, one of which is a real sight for sore eyes. In the building registering, with a Clefairy in her arms, is Whitney. Jessie hasn't seen her friend from Johto since the start of her Hoenn journey back in Slateport, and runs up to her to say hello. Jessie isn't surprised to hear that Whitney won 5 ribbons, considering how strong she and her Pokémon have gotten since winning a beauty contest back in Goldenrod. Whitney is super excited to see Jessie. A part of her has felt really guilty ever since letting Jessie beat her in the Slateport contest, but seeing Jessie win a bunch of ribbons all on her own, she sighs with relief. Clearly, Jessie adapted to contests very well. And Whitney cries with a million happy tears when Jessie tells her she was able to rescue her stolen Pokémon. Whitney is so relieved, and it also means that when they inevitably face off, Whitney doesn't have to worry or hold back. they can have a true contest battle. As Jessie registers, she also happens to see some of her other rivals from past contests, Tucker, Will, and Wallace. Though she has her stolen Pokemon back, Jessie still wants to win badly. However, seeing the competition, she knows this isn't going to be easy. But with all of her Pokemon safe and accessible to her, Jessie knows victory is as possible for her as anyone here. The next day, all coordinators enter the grand contest hall, each one a little nervous to see the massive crowd. But Jessie can see James and Meowth cheering her on and waves up at them. She spent all day yesterday planning for this. She's ready. In the preliminaries, coordinators have to prepare an appeal performance using only a single move. It's a major challenge that will really separate the best from the worst. Jessie considered all of her Pokemon for such an important opening performance, but ultimately decides that one is the perfect choice. A Pokemon who knows how to make an impression and do something unforgettable. As Jessie's turn comes, she goes on stage and sends out Gengar. The goofy little prankster Ghost has been dying, no pun intended, to get out of his Pokeball and put on a show. And he and Jessie know just how to dominate the preliminaries. Jessie waits for the audience to become silent. Gengar and her are center stage and close their eyes. The anticipation is thick as everyone waits to see what they will do. Gengar opens his eyes and releases a Nightshade attack with enough intensity that even Cyclops would be jealous. However, the attack appears to be too much for Gengar to handle. Perhaps he's out of practice? The audience begins to panic as the Nightshade beams carve out pieces of the stage haphazardly. Jessie, appearing shocked and scared, throws herself on Gengar to try and stop the attack. But Gengar can't control it, and a massive explosion sends dust and smoke into the air. The audience is silent as they wait for the dust to settle, terrified by what they might see. However, once the stage is visible, everyone is shocked and relieved. Gengar and Jessie were only pretending to lose control of the attack. Gengar was in control the entire time, and carved a self-portrait into the stage of him sticking his tongue out. Gengar and Jessie take a bow, both with a cheeky smile on their faces. It takes the audience a second, but they soon erupt in applause at the stylish, risky, and unexpected performance. Gengar has truly mastered the art of the prank. Thanks to Gengar, Jessie is one of the top scorers for the appeals, and easily makes it to the top 32. In the top 32, Jessie is free to create an appeals performance with as many moves as she wants. Coordinators are really given free rein to go all out. The stage, repaired overnight after Gengar's performance, welcomes Jessie and her chosen performer, Cloyster. Cloyster, already bigger than most other Cloyster, creates a display that truly makes him larger than life. Using Ice Beam and Spike Cannon, Cloyster showcases immense control, freezing each spike in midair. The final display is a massive ice sculpture in the shape of Jessie's iconic hairstyle. The swooping, curving ice is one of the most unique displays created, and makes Jessie extremely happy and tearful to know that Cloyster was missing and thinking of her as much as she was all of her stolen Pokemon. Once again, Jessie makes it through to the next round with relative ease. Her Pokemon are clearly very excited to get on stage and give it their all. At the top 16, the contest battles begin, each one a 3v3. Jessie enters the arena and faces off against... No, that's not possible. Let me check the script. No, that's what it says. How the heck did he make it to the Grand Festival? Jessie faces off against Stupid, the very trainer who abandoned Mawile after the Rubello contest. It seems Team Rocket won't be the only evil foe Jessie will be ridding Hoenn of. Stu, the selfish loser he is, doesn't even recognize Jessie. So when she accuses him of cheating or buying his ribbons from coordinators who won less than 5, he totally ignores her. This makes Jessie furious. He has no idea the ass whooping he's about to get. Stu sends out Shelgon, and Jessie sends out Sneasel. Exactly 2.4 seconds after the battle begins, Shelgon is knocked out. Everyone blinks and misses it, so the judges have to play back the video. Fueled by his trainer's passionate anger, Sneasel uses a Night Slash with such speed that it cracks Shelgon's shell like an egg. Stu angrily recalls his Shelgon and sends out Zangoose next. Jessie switches Sneasel out for Seviper, who, without even needing to be given the order from Jessie, easily knocks out Zangoose with a single Poison Tail. Stu is beet red from embarrassment, and the audience is dead silent, both in awe of Jessie's Pokemon and a little afraid of her too. Stu is down to his last Pokemon and sends out Hariyama. Everyone in the audience can tell that Jessie is dominating this contest battle. Seviper is clearly a powerful Pokemon and could probably take out Hariyama with ease. But Jessie knows one of her Pokemon deserves to be the one to defeat Stu. Jessie has no doubt which Pokemon she will use. Against Stu's Hariyama, Jessie sends out Mawile. Stu recognizes the little steel type immediately, and suddenly remembers Jessie too. He then begins to laugh. He believes the Pokemon he abandoned is weak and that his chances to win just shot up to 100%. But Stupid is appropriately named. Hariyama charges at Mawile and Jessie orders her to use Iron Defense. Hariyama uses Force Palm and Mawile refuses to dodge. She takes the attack head on and doesn't budge an inch. Hariyama may as well have just attacked the side of a mountain. In fact, the fighting type's hand seems to hurt more than Mawile after that attack. There's nothing Stu can do against Mawile. She feels stronger than ever before and charges at Hariyama. The large fighting type suddenly becomes intimidated and runs away from Mawile in fear, but no one can get away from Mawile. She hits the fighting type with a super effective Play Rough, knocking it out of the arena. Not only does Mawile effortlessly defeat Hariyama, but Stu is left dumbfounded by how easily he was beaten by a real trainer. Instead of having to be escorted out for being angry, he's escorted out for being too shocked to move. Mawile is nothing like she was when Stu abandoned her. She's left him behind, and with Jessie, will grow to heights he can't even imagine. Jessie and Mawile win their top 16 battle with ease and advance with a roaring applause. After a night of rest and strategizing, Jessie finds out that her opponent in the top 8 will be Whitney. It was bound to happen eventually, as both are favorites to win the whole thing, but Jessie was hoping to face her friend in the finals. Despite their upcoming match, the two don't let it affect their friendship. Jessie, Whitney, James, and Meowth all have breakfast together the morning of the top 8 battles. From what Jessie has experienced before in her Hoenn journey, they both know the stakes could be much higher, so agree to do their best and to have fun. Once in the arena, they face off with smiles on their faces. Jessie sends out her Hoenn powerhouse, Exploud, to face off against Whitney's Clefairy. Though Clefairy gets lucky with a metronome becoming Focus Blast, the attack just barely misses Exploud. This gives him an opening to hit the pink Pokemon with a Hyper Voice, knocking her out. Whitney then sends out Skitty, a very appropriate Hoenn Pokemon for Whitney as it's pink and cute. But Jessie isn't about to underestimate any Pokemon Whitney is trained. The little Pokemon is very fast and dodges a Thunder Punch from Exploud, then hitting back with a Double Edge for massive damage. But Exploud doesn't flinch, and once Skitty is close, he connects with a second Thunder Punch. Skitty becomes paralyzed, slowing it down. But Whitney has something prepared for a time like this, and Skitty uses Facade. Powered up by being afflicted with a status condition, Skitty hits Exploud harder than he's ever been hit, and is unexpectedly knocked out. Jessie then sends out another powerhouse Pokemon of hers, Hitmonlee. The fighting type has an immediate advantage against the normal type Skitty, especially since Skitty's hurt. But before Hitmonlee can attack, Whitney orders Skitty to use the move Assist. Skitty gets a move from Whitney's ace, Milk Drink. Skitty is healed back to near full health. However, she's still paralyzed, and is ultimately too slow to dodge an attack from Hitmonlee. Even after healing, a single high jump kick is enough to knock out the feisty Skitty, bringing Whitney down to her last Pokemon. Whitney can tell Jessie's come a long way since their first battle back at Slateport. If Whitney wants to win, she can't hold back anything. She sends out her strongest Pokemon, Miltank, the very Pokemon that would have defeated Jessie if Whitney hadn't thrown their last match. Hitmonlee and Miltank begin exchanging jump kicks and stomps, each just barely dodging the other. Just as it seems like Hitmonlee is going to connect with a super effective high jump kick, Miltank is able to dodge using Rollout. Hitmonlee takes a lot of damage, as his missed high jump kick causes him to collide with the arena floor. Miltank then turns on a dime and hits the fighting type with a powerful Rollout. To the audience's surprise, Hitmonlee is defeated by Miltank. Two of Jessie's strongest Pokemon have been beaten, and Whitney's Miltank hasn't taken any damage as she dodged every attack the fighting type threw at her. There's only one Pokemon that Jessie can trust to win in a clutch moment like this. She sends out Chansey. Chansey knows it all rests on her shoulders, and she's carried much harder burdens than this. When she was a nurse, when she fought Bruce and Cassidy, and throughout her adventures with Jessie. And even more, Chansey thinks of Exploud and Hitmonlee, how she helped Whismur when he was scared, how she cared for Hitmonlee when he was still an egg. She can't let those two runts fight so hard for nothing. She always supported them and everyone else, and she can't let them down now. Chansey, fueled by the love of her friends, glows bright white. Before the face-off even begins, Chansey evolves into Blissey. Whitney can't help but clap in excitement, knowing her friend's Pokemon evolved due to how loved she is. But that doesn't mean she's about to give up. The battle starts and Miltank charges forward with a rollout. Blissey doesn't even attempt to dodge. With her experience battling Milton's Miltank back in Goldenrod, she knows the timing of rollout perfectly. Just as Miltank is about to connect with her attack, Blissey grabs the cow Pokemon by the side. Using the momentum of the attack, Blissey pulls Miltank into the air. The two bulky normal types spiral through the air, and Blissey takes this opportunity to use a new move, Seismic Toss. Connecting with the powerful, momentum-fueled, super effective attack, Blissey is able to knock out Miltank in a dazzling display of control, timing, precision, and power. The audience erupts in applause as Blissey scores the most elegant knockout any of them have ever seen, winning Jessie the match. Whitney's disappointed, but knows her Pokemon did their best, and is happy that she at least lost to a friend. Wallace and Will also defeat their respective opponents, while the coordinator Tucker, who Jessie defeated in Rustboro and who will one day become a Frontier Brain, defeats a coordinator named Mr. Big to round out the rest of the top 4 as Jessie advances. In the top 4, the battles become double battles in 4v4 showdowns. Jessie faces off against Wallace. After watching him dominate the Fall Arbor contest and losing to him in the Lily Cove contest, Jessie enters the top 4 match pretty nervously, probably more so than any other battle she's had in Hoenn. She feels like she did when she battled Claire in her first gym battle ever, outmatched. But she can't give up before the fight has even begun. She owes it to her Pokemon to stay strong. The first double battle showdown is Wallace's Swampert and Wailord against Jessie's Grumpig and Wobbuffet. Swampert's muddy water is hard enough to dodge, but Wailord's massive body makes it almost impossible to avoid its attacks in the relatively small arena. But that massive size could be their downfall. When Wailord uses Body Slam and Wobbuffet uses Counter, sending that immense bulk right back at it, he knocks out the whale without moving an inch. However, a fainted Wailord can Body Slam almost as well as an awake one, and unfortunately, as it's knocked out, Wailord falls down onto Wobbuffet, knocking him out too. Though not nearly the elegant exchange Wallace would want, this double battle has become a 1v1 with Grumpig against Swampert. Grumpig and Swampert trade off Muddy Waters and Psybeams, but it's clear that Swampert is doing more damage than he's taking. The water type is a powerhouse that has propelled Wallace through the tournament thus far. Just as it did against Mawile back in Lily Cove, Swampert hits Grumpig's head with a powerful Iron Tail. However, as much damage as he does, hitting the pearls on Grumpig's head also enrages him. Like Psyduck with a headache, Grumpig utilizes his anger and unleashes a new attack, Hidden Power. It hits Swampert and seems to do decent damage, but Jessie can't tell what type the attack is exactly. The new attack helps to turn the table, but after a lengthy exchange, both Swampert and Grumpig are knocked out by a simultaneous Earthquake and Hidden Power. The battle and their places in the Grand Festival all come down to one double battle, but Wallace can tell that Jessie has come a long way since Fall Arbor and Lily Cove. This won't be an easy fight. Wallace sends out Milotic and Walrein, and Jessie puts all of her faith in Seviper and Arbok. Seviper uses Haze on the two water types, and Arbok fires off poison stings into the cloud, assuming they won't be able to dodge without seeing. But when the haze clears, Milotic has protected her and Walrein using Safeguard. Walrein then fires off a Blizzard that does heavy damage to both Seviper and Arbok. Simple tactics aren't going to be enough in this fight. Jessie tries to think of something and realizes they need to distract Milotic if they're going to get any attack through. She orders Arbok to use Dig while Seviper covers the arena in haze again. Once tunnels are dug under the stage, Arbok bursts out, surprising Milotic before it can defend and hits her with a newly learned Poison Fang. Wallace orders Milotic to use Aqua Ring to heal off this damage, but while Milotic heals, the two poison snakes attack Walrein. Seviper's Poison Tail and Arbok's newly learned Poison Fang combine to do devastating damage, and knock out Walrein in an instant. Milotic is healed to full with Aqua Ring, but is now on her own, facing off against two snakes with poison dripping from their fangs. Even the audience assumes Wallace is done for, but as a future champion, he doesn't give up. Seviper and Arbok attempt to utilize their Poison Tail and Poison Fang combo attack against Milotic, but she uses Twister to spin into the air, beautifully dodging the double attack. While soaring above the stage and Jessie's Pokémon, Milotic fires a Hydro Pump down into the tunnels Arbok dug. Milotic fills the tunnels with so much water and force that each one becomes a geyser of immense power. There's nowhere for Arbok or Seviper to dodge or escape to, and they're both hit directly. This critical damage would be enough on its own to knock out any Pokémon, especially after taking a blizzard from Walrein. But Seviper and Arbok have not fainted. They're still up, barely. Milotic, falling back down to the stage, is defenseless. She can't dodge, and Seviper and Arbok power up a Poison Tail and Poison Fang. Milotic and Wallace shut their eyes, anticipating the attack that will surely knock them out of the Grand Festival. But before the two poison types can unleash their attacks, they succumb to their wounds and faint. Milotic gracefully lands on the stage, and Wallace is declared the winner. He congratulates Jessie and admits that if that attack had gone through, it would be her moving on, not him. Jessie holds back tears of frustration and shakes Wallace's hand. It's devastating to have just barely lost, but she shakes it off and wishes him luck. Will defeats Tucker in another epic showdown, and the audience realizes that this Final Four is one of the strongest Hoenn has seen in years. Any one of them could have won, but there can only be one winner. In the finals, it's Wallace versus Will. While Jessie has defeated Will in the past at Purika, Wallace has serious trouble against him. Perhaps his Pokémon are still exhausted from their fight with Jessie, and Wallace loses against Will. Will is crowned champion of the Hoenn Grand Festival. He will one day ride this victory all the way to the Elite Four back in Johto. Wallace, perhaps humbled by this loss, turns his attention towards conventional battling, and will one day become a gym leader and later the champion of the Hoenn League. Jessie is upset to have lost, but can't help but feel proud to have made it all the way to the top 4. Based on her battling and appeals record, it's undeniable that she and her Pokémon are amazing and will go on to do great things. She's come a long way, from flunking out of Pokémon Tech, to training in the Silver Mountains with Bruno, to now being one of the best coordinators in all of Hoenn. With the Grand Festival over, there's only one more tournament, the Evergrande Conference, and James enters with more confidence and enthusiasm than he expected to have. His motivation had solely been to save his friends, but now that he's here, he can't deny how badly he wants to win, to see his Pokémon come out on top like he knows they deserve. The preliminaries are a single 1v1 match, and James sends out Vigoroth to face off against a trainer who uses a Cacturn. Remembering the rivalry he once had with Cacnea, Vigoroth has no trouble shrugging off Needle Arms and Feint Attacks. With a super effective Focus Punch, Vigoroth annihilates Cacturn, thinking that even though it's a pre-evolution, James's Cacnea is much stronger. After a region filled with gym battles and challenges, Vigoroth begins to glow white after its victory here. Vigoroth evolves into Slacking. James thinks this is a great omen for the Evergrande Conference, not only winning his first battle with ease, but one of his Pokémon evolving too. He can't wait to use Slacking in the upcoming battles. In the first of 3 qualifying round double battles, James has to battle against a trainer named Winona. Although James doesn't know this, Winona is a flying type specialist, and will one day take over for Vladimir as the Fortree gym leader. James strategizes on what 2 Pokémon would work best together. He recalls how in the Orange League, Ditto was a fantastic double partner with Haunter, and thinks he will do just as well with Slacking. But when James tries to practice with Slacking for the first time, he learns something. Slacking is, well, pretty lazy. Shedding the vigor and speed of its pre-evolution, Slacking seems even lazier and sleepier than Slackoth was. James is too nervous to use Slacking, unsure of how such a sleepy Pokémon will battle, and decides to go with an Old Faithful, and selects Ditto and Growly to battle Winona. In the double battle arena, Ditto and Growly face off against Winona's Altaria and Swellow. Winona is initially able to use her flying types to great effect, easily dodging every Flamethrower and Fire Blast Growly throws at them. But James has a crazy idea to overpower them. Ditto transforms into Swellow, and Growly jumps on its back. Not unlike the thunder armor Ash used in that other timeline, Growly and Ditto Swellow are coated in a Flare Blitz, and defeat Winona using a technique James calls Fire Armor. It shouldn't work, it doesn't make any sense, but it's flashy and effective and wins James the match. In the next double battle, James decides to use his two favorite grass types who so often hurt him with love, Carnivine and Cacnea. Against a trainer's Plusle and Minun, the two have a strong advantage. They resist all of the opponent's electric type attacks and are able to slow them down thanks to Carnivine's Vine Whips and Cacnea's Sandstorm. Ultimately, the two absolutely dominate and defeat Plusle and Minun with a combo of Bullet Seed and Pin Missile. Just one more qualifying round to go before the top 32 is chosen, and James's next opponent could be really tough. This trainer will one day take over as the Rustboro gym leader, Roxanne. However, although Roxanne has made a big impact in the tournament thus far, taking very little damage with her Geodude and Nosepass, she isn't ready for what James has in store. He sends out Gyarados and Milotic. The two giant, powerful sea serpents could have destroyed the arena with a cataclysmic storm created from Hydro Pumps, Rain Dances, and Twisters, but decide to go easy on the two rock types. Milotic knocks out Nosepass with a Water Pulse, and Gyarados looks at Geodude so intensely that the rock with arms faints. It's a blowout. James leaves the qualifying rounds and enters the top 32 as one of the favorites to win it all. But in addition to the victory here, James notices a certain spark between Gyarados and Milotic. Milotic is impressed with Gyarados' strength, and Gyarados has never met another water type as strong as him before. When James tries to practice and train with the two later on, he realizes that being around Milotic leaves Gyarados a little distracted. It's an odd sight to see two giant sea serpents blushing. James ultimately decides to send the two of them back to his grandparents so they can relax together, and he can focus on the tournaments. Who is he to stand in the way of a budding romance? James decides to bring Chimecho back to help calm and heal his team in between the upcoming battles, which are sure to be really intense. After a night of resting and strategizing, James begins the top 32 portion of the conference. At this stage, it's 3v3 battles. His first opponent is, once again, a future gym leader, Brawly. Funny how often that happens. Brawly, the fighting type specialist, begins with a Machop, and James sends out Gardevoir. This is not a great matchup for Brawly. The fighting type squares up against Gardevoir, but she's able to knock him out with a single Psybeam. Against Meditite, Gardevoir has to work a little harder. Using Protect to avoid a Focus Punch, Gardevoir retaliates with Psybeam. It doesn't do nearly as much damage, especially since Meditite sets up a light screen on the battlefield. However, even though Meditite does some damage with a second Focus Punch, Gardevoir stalls the small fighting type with Double Team and defeats it with a Future Sight. Makuhita is next, and thanks to Meditite's light screen, is able to survive a Psybeam from Gardevoir. Makuhita then unexpectedly knocks out Gardevoir with a combination of Fake Out and Arm Thrust, ruining James's potential sweep. James isn't phased though, and sends out Nidoqueen. Brawly lets out a deep sigh. I never had a chance, huh? He says as Nidoqueen resists Makuhita's Arm Thrust and easily knocks out the fighting type with an extremely powerful Earthquake. Though Brawly is able to barely squeak out a single win in their fight, James ultimately wins and moves on to the next round. In the top 16, James sends out Nidoqueen against his opponent's Kecleon. Although Nidoqueen has immense power, Kecleon is able to camouflage to avoid attacks and change its type to reduce damage. Kecleon wins with a super effective Psybeam, taking out Nidoqueen. James decides to take a chance, and sends out Slaking. With one other Pokemon in reserve, this is as good a time as any to test out his newly evolved Pokemon. Against his opponent's Kecleon, Slaking barely takes notice of the Chameleon's slash attacks. Slaking doesn't seem to want to do anything, especially not battle. Instead of using Focus Punch, Slaking uses Rest, healing off the damage from Kecleon's attacks. Just when James is about to return the unruly Pokemon to its Pokeball, Slaking uses Snore. Its snore is so loud and intense, it's able to knock out Kecleon immediately. James is as blown away by Slaking's strength as everyone else, especially Kecleon, who made good friends with the arena wall, and decides to sit back and see what this sloth can do. The other trainer then sends out Blaziken, assuming the fighting type will make quick work of the sleeping normal type. But when Blaziken uses Jump Kick, it does a lot of damage, sure, but it also wakes Slaking up. Never wake up a Slaking. His eyes burst open and begin twitching with rage. Without even getting up, Slacking's mouth opens and unleashes a hyper beam so powerful, the audience worries if Blaziken was disintegrated. Luckily, this is a cartoon, so Blaziken is simply knocked out. And against the trainer's last Pokemon, Absol, Slacking begins taking James's orders and defeats it with a single focus punch a la One Punch Man. James and his big lazy sloth win the top 16 battle with ease. Apparently, according to Meowth, Slacking wasn't intentionally ignoring James's orders or trying to be disobedient. Meowth translates for Slacking, "Sorry, that Kecleon's attacks were so weak, I didn't think it was actually a battle. My bad." Both James and Meowth shudder a little, thinking of what immense power is hidden behind those sleepy eyes. In the top 8, James faces off against a trainer who sends out a Shedinja. James has heard about how this Pokemon has been dominating the tournament thus far, and it gave him an idea. He sends out Ditto, who transforms into Shedinja. Ditto's able to dodge Shedinja's Shadow Claw, and defeats it with a Shadow Claw of their own, and then, thanks to retaining Shedinja's Wonder Guard ability, has an easy time with the next battles. The Hoenn trainer never expected Shedinja's ability would be used against her. Linoon and Sceptile get swept because they don't have super effective attacks to use against Ditto Shedinja. They're helpless against the copied Wonder Guard. Linoon and Sceptile are defeated with Fury Swipes and Leech Life respectively. Though his last 2 battles ended up being relatively easy for him, in the top 4, James knows victory won't be simple. He's facing off against the very trainer who helped rescue him from Team Rocket, Steven Stone. It's a highly anticipated showdown, and one the audience believes will be as good as any final match. Steven and James enter the arena, both knowing the other is as prepared to win this whole thing as the other, but they still manage to smile and wish each other best of luck. The match begins with both putting their best foot forward, sending out Metagross and Growly. These 2 Pokemon have done very well in the tournament, with everyone talking about Growly's fire armor, and how Metagross has yet to be defeated once in Steven's entire journey. Even with Growly's type advantage, this won't be easy. Growly fires off a flamethrower, but Metagross uses Protect to avoid any damage. The Steel type fires off a flash cannon, but Growly evades it. They're clearly just testing each other. But as they collide with a Meteor Mash and Iron Tail, everyone can tell the real battle's about to begin. The arena erupts in an explosion of dust and debris from the collision, but both Growly and Metagross come out of it unfazed. Steven realizes a direct attack on Growly will be difficult to connect with, as the little fire type is very fast. So, he orders Metagross to use an attack that Growly can't evade, Earthquake. The entire arena shakes, but when Steven looks to where Growly should be, the puppy Pokemon is nowhere to be seen. Growly dodged the attack by jumping just as it was unleashed, and landing on top of Metagross. While the giant Steel type is distracted by missing its Earthquake, Growly is engulfed in flames. The Fire type unleashes an immensely powerful Flare Blitz directly onto Metagross. It takes the full force of the attack, and as the flames dissipate, everyone can see Metagross fainted underneath the smiling, tail-wagging pup. Though Metagross has been defeated for the first time in Steven's journey, he can't help but smile. "I should expect nothing less from a trainer like you, James," he says. He then sends out Cradily to face off against Growly. Though able to dodge or mitigate all of Metagross's attacks, Growly took an immense amount of recoil damage using Flare Blitz on the Steel type. He can't dodge as effectively, and while he does damage with Iron Tail, it's partially healed by Cradily using Ingrain. Growly can't bounce back to mitigate this healing quickly enough, and as he prepares to fire off another Iron Tail, is taken out by a super effective Rock Slide. James runs out to grab Growly, who's clearly upset to have lost, but James reassures his best friend that he did an amazing job, and that this fight is far from over. He carries Growly to the sidelines to be watched by Jessie and Meowth, and then sends out Cacnea. She's been a reliable partner throughout his journey, and he has complete confidence she can defeat Cradily. Cradily attempts to use Acid, but Cacnea knocks it away using Sandstorm. Though Cradily heals more with Ingrain, it has a fatal flaw. Cradily can't move to dodge. Before the fossil Pokemon can make another attack, Cacnea unleashes super effective Pin Missile after Pin Missile on the stationary target. Cradily clips Cacnea with one last desperate Acid, but can do nothing to stop Cacnea's onslaught and faints from one last Pin Missile. Steven is down to his last Pokemon and sends out Aggron. Cacnea may be at a type disadvantage, but has a move that could turn the tide of the battle in her favor. She dodges a Rock Tomb and uses Drain Punch. Though Cacnea is able to heal some of the damage taken with this super effective attack, Aggron is ultimately able to take out the grass type with an equally super effective Iron Tail. James is now also down to his last Pokemon. He has a long list of friends he can call upon, knowing full well they will all give everything they have to win. But there's one in particular he knows he can trust, and sends out Weezing. Although using a poison type against a steel type seems like a bad idea, James knows Weezing has more to offer than simple sludge attacks. And Steven doesn't underestimate Weezing. He orders Aggron to use Earthquake, testing if Weezing can levitate out of the way, which the poison type does with ease. James orders Weezing to use Smokescreen, covering the arena in a thick smoke. Steven assumes it's a simple tactic where Weezing will try and attack with a takedown while Aggron can't dodge, but James has another plan. Weezing levitates far above the smoke. Both Weezing and James recall how the poison type lost against Lieutenant Surge back near the start of their adventure in Kanto, how Raichu used an electric attack that triggered the gas to explode, and now James is about to do that again, only this time it'll be on purpose. Weezing uses a new move James taught him, Thunderbolt. Weezing unleashes the electric attack, triggering a massive explosion of the smokescreen, enveloping Aggron in a flurry of fire and haze. Even people in the stands can feel the intensity of the heat, and everyone assumes Aggron will be fainted once the smoke settles. But when it does, Aggron's still standing. Scorched and clearly damaged heavily, the steel type refuses to give up. Steven orders Aggron to use Rock Tomb. Glowing rocks appear atop Weezing, crashing into the poison type. This sends Weezing hurtling down towards the arena, who is very high up to avoid being damaged by the explosion. The Rock Tomb and the fall does massive damage, also slowing Weezing down. James knows Weezing is now too slow to dodge, so he orders him to use Bide, hoping he can unleash Aggron's next attack back at him to win. Weezing glows white and Aggron uses Metal Claw. As Weezing takes the damage, he can feel the attack from Bide build up within him. He knows it will be enough to defeat Aggron, but it's also too much for Weezing. Before he can unleash the attack back with Bide, Weezing succumbs to the damage and faints. The audience is as surprised by the loss here as James is. It looked like Steven was finished, but he was ultimately able to just barely outlast James. It was obvious how close it was, as Aggron faints as well only moments after Steven is declared the victor. James is knocked out of the tournament at the top 4, but returns Weezing to his Pokeball without regrets. He gave literally everything he had, and can feel nothing but pride in his friends. Steven then enters the finals against a trainer named Annabelle, who will one day become a Frontier Brain. The battle is a worthy final showdown, and both Steven and Annabelle showcase why they made it so far in the Evergrande Conference. Ultimately, thanks to his Fossil and Steel types, Steven is able to come out on top and defeat Annabelle's team. His victory is met with uproarious applause by the audience. He's undeniably one of the strongest trainers Hoenn has ever seen. Though neither of their journeys ended in victory, James and Jessie don't leave Hoenn feeling empty-handed. They made new friends, saw new places, helped Volbeat and Illumise, saved everyone from Team Rocket, and performed admirably in the Grand Festival and Evergrande Conference. As they both watch in the audience while Steven is crowned champion of the Evergrande Conference, he holds up his hands to quiet the crowd. I'd like to say a few words. Though I'm honored to be awarded this trophy here, I believe this year there are others who deserve recognition. If not for these individuals, we may not have even had an Evergrande Conference. Officer Jenny appears with Aston, near Jessie, James, and Meowth, and they escort them onto the stage. The trio didn't know this was happening and are blushing quite a bit. In honor of their work in stopping Team Rocket and rescuing countless trainers' Pokemon, Jessie, James, and Meowth are given Hoenn Medals of Honor. Jessie for her strength, James for his conviction, and Meowth for his bravery, each representing traits that everyone should strive for. Steven and Aston ensure that all of Hoenn will remember what these three did for them. The applause they get can be heard across the islands, echoing their great deeds for all to hear. Thus ends our trio's adventure in Hoenn. It took a lot longer to see its conclusion than I expected, but I'm very happy to finally share what I've been working on for so long. I do have a plan for their next adventure in the works. I actually have plans all the way till Kalos, but let's see how things go. But I'm also working on another Pokemon adventure from the point of view of some other underrated characters. Stay tuned for that and more random videos. I hope you enjoyed James, Jessie, and Meowth's Hoenn journey. It was one of my favorite fanfiction arcs I've ever written. I honestly never expected to continue this story all the way up until this point, but now that I'm here, I'm really proud of what I ended up creating. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Thanks for watching!